Invincibility begins with contemplating the sun. Hello again, dear adventurers of the multiverse. Thanks for joining us once more on this epic journey. Remember, this story is pure science fiction from our wild imagination. So don't go trying to summon dragons in your backyard. The rights of this amazing novel belong entirely to its original author. We are only the narrators. Do you want more adventures? Show some love to our YouTube channel with a subscription and a like. And if you want exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting for you with open arms. Chapter 51 Yin Source Pearl. Your surname is Yi? These words echoed in Yi Qing's mind, ringing loudly. He couldn't help but curse Lu Dafu for being so meddlesome. I'm asking you, is your surname Yi? Li Heng spoke again, his expression indifferent. Yi Qing's heart stiffened, he knew he couldn't escape this question. He quickly bowed to Li Heng and respectfully replied, my surname is indeed Yi, and my given name is Qing. Yi Qing? That's a good name. Li Heng smiled faintly, a playful look on his face. And where are you from? He asked again, as if checking someone's household registration. At this moment, Lu Dafu, who had recovered from his shock, suddenly sensed that the atmosphere was a bit off. Had Yi Qing offended this important person? Now they were even asking about Yi Qing's family affairs? After thinking for a moment, he decided to help his friend. My friend is from Jing'an village, a nearby village. He has an innocent background and is not some evil spirit or monster, Lu Dafu said with a forced smile, his fat face creased into several lines, making him look somewhat comical. Jing'an village? Li Heng pondered. Before coming to the Three Mountains gathering, he had roughly learned about the villages near the gathering. Jing'an village was located in one of the mountains. That's a real pity, Li Heng shook his head and sighed. I once met a man surnamed Yi, but he committed suicide, which left me feeling quite sad. You flatter me, sir. I am all alone, and none of my friends have the surname Yi. I suppose the man's surname Yi you mentioned has nothing to do with me? Yi Qing said cautiously. But a heavy feeling and fear settled in his heart. Me? Could this inexplicably appearing evil Starg be from the exorcism division? Damn it. He had been avoiding the exorcism division all along, and now he had run right into them. He was anxious, his mind racing. Indeed, I don't have much evidence. But I just feel you're connected to that guy surnamed Yi. Li Heng smiled lightly, sending Yi Qing plummeting into an icy abyss. The muscles hidden beneath his robes tensed, as if about to explode and flee. Do you know that guy surnamed Yi also owns a trading company? But it was raided during the day. His words were leisurely, yet carried an undisguised murderous intent. This caused Lu Dafu, standing nearby, to break out in a cold sweat. What serious trouble had his friend gotten into? My lord, please understand. I'm just a traveling antique dealer in the mountains. How could I possibly be entangled with a wealthy family that owns a trading company? Yi Qing explained anxiously, utterly bewildered and innocent. Li Heng continued smiling, like a cat toying with a mouse, without directly answering Yi Qing's question. Instead, he continued, I'm giving you a chance to run. If you run fast enough, your life is safe. But if you don't run, you'll become roast meat. With that, a flame appeared between Li Heng's fingers. The flames here were practically sparks, but Yi Qing felt a chill run down his spine. His survival instincts told him of the immense terror within, one he couldn't withstand. Lu Dafu, standing beside him, was slightly shocked. The light of this flame, and the feeling it gave him, how could it be so similar to the flames emanating from his own child? Could it be? Just as he was filled with dread, Yi Qing suddenly fled. He circulated his ki and blood, unleashing his vital energy, and displayed superb movement techniques. His body moved swiftly and elusively, in just a breath. He had covered 30 or 40 meters. Lu Dafu stared blankly at this scene. What was going on? Why would his friend run away? In other words, if his friend had nothing to hide, why would he run away? Had he really done something? Lu Dafu suddenly remembered his wife's suspicions. Could it be that the person who had attracted the strange occurrences and nearly brought them to their doom was actually his friend Yi Qing? Li Heng, watching Yi Qing's escape, was not surprised. Upon first meeting, he sensed that Yi Qing's aura was somewhat similar to that of the second young master he had dealt with, as if they shared the same origin. The only difference was that the second young master's aura was purer. Interesting. The flying cloud chamber of commerce should have been completely dealt with by the old man. Unexpectedly, there was still a survivor. Was he not at the chamber of commerce at that time? Li Heng knew Meng Lingyan's methods well. No matter how fast you are, within the true key field of a true key realm expert, you would be as slow as a tortoise. And Meng Lingyan was a peak true key realm expert. At this moment, Yi Qing couldn't care less about the strange beings searching for him. He was running frantically through the streets. If the strange beings found him, he would die later. If he stopped, he would die immediately. He knew the correct solution was to suddenly launch an attack, assassinate the demon envoy, and gamble on a surprise attack for a chance of survival. However, when he saw Li Heng's flames, he instantly abandoned this idea. He was, after all, a member of a powerful force and knew what this meant. This demon-slaying envoy is definitely from a noble family. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to wield flames at the bone-refining realm. This is quite different from ordinary peasant martial artists. An ordinary martial artist's attack, even with exceptional talent and greater strength, can kill someone with a single punch. But Yi Qing was confident that he could withstand 2 or 3 blows with his secret technique, then seize the opportunity to counterattack and teach these peasants a lesson in the treacherous nature of the martial world. However, this rule doesn't apply to scions of noble families. Because the abilities of bloodlines are extremely mysterious, someone might only graze you, and you would die instantly. How could Yi Qing dare to gamble like that? He didn't want to be burned to ashes by such flames. So, he decided to run. At least that way, there was still a glimmer of hope. As for staying and gambling on a fair fight, he dared not gamble. If this demon-slaying envoy really knew his origins, staying would be pure suicide. In the blink of an eye, Yi Qing had already run to several other streets. As he fled, he kept glancing back, but he couldn't see the demon envoy's shadow, and he breathed a sigh of relief. But then, he thought it shouldn't be like this. The demon envoy, confident he could escape first, must have some kind of method. He couldn't have let him escape so easily. Unless the demon envoy was a fool? Yi Qing shook his head, thinking that was unlikely. He turned back, intending to keep running. As long as he escaped this 3 mountains gathering, escaped this strange realm, he didn't believe the demon envoy could find him. That is, assuming everything went perfectly. Then, he saw Li Heng ahead of him. "You're not fast enough, you can't even walk as fast as me," Li Heng said calmly, blocking Yi Qing's path. Yi Qing was shocked and didn't care about anything else. He immediately took out a bright pearl from his robes. Inside the pearl, gas seemed to be churning and surging, taking on human and ghostly forms. "The yin source pearl is here. Don't you want to take it back?" he shouted to the surroundings, as if summoning something. Chapter 52 The true fire of the sun is really useful. Li Heng raised an eyebrow upon hearing this. He stared at the yin source pearl in Yi Qing's hand, sensing the terrifying yin energy within it. Even the yin energy stored by the yin gathering runes paled in comparison to the yin energy within this pearl, utterly insignificant, as if it were the very source of all yin energy in the world. At this moment, he sensed a change in the surrounding eerie realm. Some vengeful spirits slowly emerged around them, as if they had walked from the depths of hell and were now returning to the world. Their bodies emanated overwhelming resentment, utterly terrifying. Li Heng was somewhat surprised. Was this a pro-version of vengeful spirits? However, a vengeful spirit was still a vengeful spirit, even if enhanced. It was merely a transformation from chaotic resentment to pure resentment, nothing to fear for someone like him who possessed the true fire of the sun. What truly interested him was the pearl in Yi Qing's hand and what he had just said. It seemed that the reason these vengeful spirits appeared in the world was entirely because of that pearl and Yi Qing's words. Was that pearl important to these vengeful spirits, or rather, to the eerie entity behind them? Yi Qing was breathing heavily. He had been a handsome young man, but now, due to excessive blood circulation, his face was flushed red, as if he had been boiled. He was somewhat nervous. Although he had drawn out these vengeful spirits, which should be enough to slow down the demon slayer, it also meant he had re-entered their sight. He held the yin source pearl. The real hatred still lay with him. So without thinking, he used his secret technique again, taking light and mysterious steps to escape, leaving the trouble to Li Heng. Vengeful spirits, after all, were just that, vengeful spirits, and lacked intelligence. Seeing Yi Qing disappear instantly, their hatred vanished, and they immediately turned their attention to Li Heng, the living man. Li Heng looked at these 10 enhanced vengeful spirits and couldn't help but smile. This Yi Qing really dared to try and use these vengeful spirits to delay his actions? But he was more than happy to oblige. A wisp of true solar fire shot out, instantly incinerating the 10 enhanced vengeful spirits before drifting away. His source energy increased by 20. Clearly, the enhanced vengeful spirits were different, each one was worth 2 points of source energy. Li Heng's eyes lit up. He wasn't in a hurry to deal with Yiqing anymore, it seemed he could use him to farm monsters. Yiqing had already reached the outer area of the Three Mountains gathering. Seeing no one behind him and no one in front, he couldn't help but feel smug. Even if you're from a noble family and have bloodline abilities, you'll still have to drink my foot-washing water. Of course, while thinking this, he still had to run. Who knew how long those strange creatures could hold out? Then, during his escape, he felt someone pat him on the shoulder. Yiqing instantly bristled, his hair standing on end, and he jumped back quickly, seeing the calm Li Heng. He was dumbfounded. What was going on? Those 10 vengeful spirits were extremely resentful. Even if they possessed bloodline abilities, they should have taken a long time to catch up with him. How did they catch up with him so quickly? Yiqing was unaware that it was merely resentment, barely enough to fuel the true fire of the sun without hesitation. He took out the Yin Source Pearl again. Strange figures reappeared around him, still emerging from that unfathomable, hellish realm, utterly eerie and unsettling. Having done this, he turned and ran again. Li Heng smiled, his eyes like those of a glutton, watching these strange creatures, ready to savor this feast. Strange creatures eat people, he eats strange creatures, there was nothing wrong with that. After a while, Yiqing began to break down. No matter how fast he ran, he couldn't escape the Three Mountains gathering, it was as if the space ahead had been stretched out. Moreover, the demon exorcist was relentlessly chasing him, and the strange creatures he had summoned couldn't hold him off for long. If this continued, he would be worn down first. Li Heng chased after him leisurely. This Yiqing was truly a monster-slaying machine. How long had it been? His source power had surpassed 100 again, reaching 150. Yi was truly his lucky star. He wasn't worried that Yiqing could escape. The Three Mountains gathering had been sealed off by the ghost domain. Unless Yiqing possessed the ability to tear through the ghost domain, he wouldn't be able to escape. But if he truly had such an ability, why would he be running around like a headless fly? As for why he didn't personally seize the Source Pearl, that pearl was filled with yin energy, extremely strange, who knew what hidden dangers it might pose? It was better to let Yiqing bear the risk. Yiqing was caught again. By this time, he was panting heavily, his face pale. He had continuously used secret techniques to escape, and his vital energy was severely depleted. If this continued, he would die from exhaustion. He took out the Yin Source Pearl again, begging the ghost chasing him to be more powerful, to send out a stronger one. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to hold off this demon exorcist for long. He couldn't help but start praying to the ghost. The demon exorcist was indeed more powerful than the ghost. Li Heng narrowed his eyes, looking around, and a huge black shadow appeared. It was twice the size of the monster he had just dealt with, the kind capable of destroying city walls. It seemed even the monster behind him was losing its composure. He couldn't help but sigh, feeling that the monster's composure needed improvement. How many cannon fodder had died so few times? And now it was sending out an elite boss? As the shadowy figure appeared, a faint but palpable pressure also emerged. An ordinary person here would be scared to death by this pressure, and even the bravest would wet themselves. This pressure had nothing to do with willpower, it acted on the body. Yiqing trembled slightly from this pressure. But he was overjoyed, this aura was clearly that of a true Key Realm expert. Had a true Key Realm monster appeared? He felt that this damned demon slayer was doomed. A mere bone-refining realm expert could withstand a true Key Realm monster? Even with bloodline abilities, it wouldn't be enough. Thinking this, he immediately turned and ran. If not now, when? If this true Key Realm anomaly truly manifested, he would have no chance of survival and would rather run. With his current physical condition, he could still use a secret technique to create distance between himself and the demon slayer. But as soon as he took a step, his legs went weak. Then, under the oppressive force of the true Key Realm anomaly, he collapsed to the ground, landing face first. His nose broke instantly. By the time he got up, the anomaly had already manifested. Yiqing was on the verge of tears. What was going on? Why did he fall at such a crucial moment? He was finished. He would die here, just like the demon slayer. Li Heng looked at the anomaly in front of him and wanted to ask, "Are you and the previous anomaly related?" However, It was obvious that this anomaly lacked intelligence. It roared and attacked Li Heng and the others. He couldn't help but shake his head, and a wisp of solar true fire flew out. Solar true fire was truly useful against those without intelligence who didn't even dodge. Alright, you can continue running away. Li Heng clapped his hands and said calmly. Yiqing stared dumbfounded at the bizarre creature rolling on the ground, trying to extinguish the flames. This was a true key realm cultivator. Chapter 53 The Goddess Arrives at Night. Who exactly are you? Yiqing gritted his teeth, already prepared to give up. Rather than being chased around like this, exhausting his energy, he might as well stay put. Judging from the abilities this demon slayer had displayed, he was just playing cat and mouse, playing along. Continuing to run like this was pointless. Are you going to run or not? Li Heng was getting impatient. Why was this monster-killing machine so disobedient? During their conversation, the eerie black shadow behind him had been completely burned away by the true sun fire. Source power plus 20. Even a true key realm cultivator couldn't withstand the burning of the true sun fire. Even if it was just a weakened version. Of course, that was because the eerie black shadow was brainless. If it were a normal person with a brain, it would definitely avoid getting the true sun fire on its body. Even if it did get on its body, it would probably cut off its own arm. Li Heng's words made Yiqing feel indignant. Even now, was this demon slayer still playing cat and mouse? He actually wanted him to run? They were both at the bone refining realm. You only had one more bloodline ability than me. Was it necessary to be so insulting? He suppressed his grief and indignation, and took out the yin source pearl. Don't force me. You must have sensed the yin energy within. If I accidentally break it, the yin energy will erupt, and both of us will die. Yiqing roared, his voice trembling slightly. He really couldn't understand why his luck was so bad now. He had always been quite lucky, otherwise, he wouldn't have been chosen by his family to search for something around the Three Mountains gathering. But now he had obtained the item, and he was also in trouble. First, his family's flying cloud merchant guild here was destroyed, leaving him without a place to stay. Then, the concentration of yin energy in the world suddenly increased, and coupled with his taking the yin source pearl, he broke that delicate balance. This allowed that ghostly thing to temporarily interfere with the world, manifesting a strange realm, sending out a large number of strange creatures to hunt him down. The hunting down was one thing, but with his own strength, he was confident he could hold out until dawn. Once daylight broke and the concentration of yin energy decreased, this eerie realm would crumble on its own, allowing him to escape. However, during the pursuit by the eerie beings, he unexpectedly encountered members of the Exorcism Bureau. This damned exorcist. Yiqing was bewildered. Wasn't the official exorcist of the Three Mountains gathering already dead? Why? Why would a powerful exorcist suddenly appear? He roared inwardly, his hand gripping the yin source pearl tightly. The chill emanating from the pearl seeped into his body through his hand, freezing his mind before bringing him back to his senses. He cautiously looked at Li Heng. Do you think this pearl is your trump card? Li Heng smiled slightly. The yin energy contained in this pearl is at the innate level. If it erupts, it can cover the entire Three Mountains gathering. Therefore, I advise you not to act rashly, it wouldn't be good for anyone. Yiqing said coldly. The yin source pearl made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cave, as if he were in winter, but it also brought his mind back to calm and rationality. Let's just stay at peace. I'll leave this place at sunrise tomorrow morning and promise never to return. He tried to negotiate with Li Heng. Li Heng frowned, somewhat disappointed. This monster-slaying machine wasn't slaying monsters for him anymore? Was there no justice? How was he supposed to recycle source energy now? He looked around, but nothing strange appeared, and he couldn't help but shake his head in dismay. Since it's not working, then I can't let you live. However, if you can reveal information about the Yi family, I might spare your life. Yiqing remained calm and silent. He didn't believe that the Demon Exorcist Division would dare to attack him. This was something powerful enough to engulf the Three Mountains gathering and cause the deaths of tens of thousands of people. Even if you have the ability to escape and save your life, can you, as a demon exorcist, bear such dereliction of duty? He was gambling. Then he saw a fist growing larger and larger in his field of vision, eventually filing his entire field of vision. Boom! Li Heng punched Yiqing squarely in the head. He lost his gamble. Li Heng blasted Yiqing's entire body away with a single punch. A chunk of his head caved in, and he flew 7 or 8 zang away, landing on the ground bleeding profusely, lifeless. Li Heng reacted swiftly, his figure flashing as he caught the yin source pearl scattered in the air. Simultaneously, he visualized the great sun, its radiance and power to dispel all evil curses, thus preventing further harm. This yin source pearl was incredibly strange. Looking at the utterly miserable corpse of Yu Qing, even the white blood flowing from his head, he couldn't help but sigh. I told you to run, so run. Why did you have to talk nonsense? Now look what happened, you're dead. He withdrew his distracting thoughts and focused on the yin source pearl. Within it, yin energy surged and swirled, forming various inexplicable shapes, humans, beasts, birds, fish, as if countless souls were trapped within. Li Heng frowned. Even with his visualization of the great sun and the protection of his demon-slaying buff, he could still sense the pearl's malevolent nature, its intent to invade one's mind. Innate level yin energy, engulfing the 3 mountains gathering? He murmured softly, feeling he'd caught a big fish this time. This thing was actually related to an innate level anomaly? If he could kill this level of anomaly. With a thought, the data panel appeared. Whatever this bead was, its origin, danger, or effects, an appraisal would tell. This was also why he hadn't spared Yu Qing's life. There was no need to deliberately leave that person alive. Kill him if you want. Just then, the surrounding environment suddenly trembled. This tremor wasn't from the surrounding houses or the earth itself turning upside down. It was a tremor from a conceptual, or spatial, level. This feeling made Li Heng feel somewhat disoriented. He frowned. Had another anomaly descended? But the previous anomalies hadn't been as loud as this one. Could it be a big fish? Or perhaps the anomaly behind the scenes? Was this yin source bead what that anomaly wanted? Li Heng speculated in his heart. Just a moment later, he saw a figure slowly emerging in front of him. This was the figure of a woman, dressed in a magnificent palace gown. If one ignored the indistinct face, the clothing and graceful figure alone would make one mistake her for a goddess descending to earth. The woman slowly walked towards Li Heng, her illusory form becoming more solid with each step. As if she were stepping from some unfathomable realm into reality. A goddess? Li Heng shook his head and smiled slightly. Did they really think Li Heng, was blind? In his visualized heavenly eye, yin energy enveloped her, and vengeful spirits followed her. Was this so-called goddess a goddess of the underworld? Where did this demon come from? How dare you play tricks here? Behold my great sun! Li Heng roared, directly manifesting the great sun Dharma form. Chapter 54 The Great Array seals the demon. The great sun Dharma image manifested, illuminating the entire street. The previously dim street instantly shone brightly, like daytime, with even a few specks of dust clearly visible on the ground. Even the eerie domain surrounding the 3 mountains gathering rippled due to the manifestation of the great sun Dharma image, as if space itself were distorted. The woman's increasingly solidifying illusory image was suppressed by the light of the great sun Dharma image, becoming even more ethereal, as if to send her back to the depths of hell. Li Heng calmly observed the woman, but he was somewhat surprised. According to his understanding of the great sun Dharma image, the woman's illusory image should have immediately dissipated, not persisted for so long. Could this woman, or rather this strange entity, truly be a being of the innate level, and a relatively strong one at that? Li Heng was secretly astonished. This was just an illusory image. If the real body were to appear, he estimated he wouldn't be able to withstand it. Sensing the light of the great sun Dharma image, the indistinct woman stopped in place, looking up at the great sun Dharma image. The next moment, her aura suddenly erupted. Endless yin energy washed over the entire street, flying towards the great sun Dharma image. It seemed to be trying to wear it down through this method. HMPH, you dare to show off your meager skills before an expert? Li Heng sneered. He estimated he couldn't do anything to the woman's true, mysterious form. But this was merely a phantom, and he wouldn't allow a mere phantom to display its power before the great sun Dharma image. With a thought, the might of the great sun erupted instantly. Its light radiated the intent to extinguish demons and vanquish evil, directly suppressing the rampant and surging yin energy, calming it down. Fire ignited in the void, transforming into true solar fire that flew towards the yin energy. True solar fire entering yin energy was like a wolf among sheep. The originally vast ocean of yin energy was burned away in a short time, like winter snow melting under the warm sun. The woman watched this scene in silence. Suddenly, she took another step forward. Crack! As if something had shattered, The woman, bathed in the light of the great sun Dharma image, continued to advance, her speed tripling, her body becoming increasingly solid. Li Heng frowned. This strange entity was far too ferocious. Although his great sun Dharma image was a weakened version, it was still absolutely effective against strange entities. Yet, this strange entity could advance even under the light of the great sun Dharma image. Even the so-called ancestor of the Yi family he had encountered in the cave didn't seem this ferocious. With a thought, he unleashed the full power of the great sun Dharma image. Demon slaying, evil annihilating, light, purification, and intense heat, a barrage of buffs were applied, shining upon the woman. The woman, who had been advancing relentlessly, instantly froze. Her body shifted from solid to illusory, then back to solid. She seemed to be battling the great sun Dharma image, trying to break free from these buffs and return to the mortal world. Hand it over if you're interested. I won't make things difficult for you. The woman suddenly spoke, her voice clear and melodious, like heavenly music descending from the heavens, seemingly lingering for days. This is the feeling a normal person would have. Hearing such a voice, one would definitely become a sycophant, obediently serving this fairy. Otherwise, it would be a great act of rebellion. After all, it is an honor for a mortal to serve a fairy. But to Li Heng, this was mental pollution. This voice was incredibly demonic, purposefully trying to penetrate Li Heng's mind, wanting to echo endlessly in his head, leaving an unforgettable mark on him. Just shut up. Li Heng spoke calmly. He had visualized the true form of the great sun, and his own spirit was as if a vast sun hung high above him. Unless this strange realm could corrupt the great sun, it could not corrupt him. This was the domineering nature of the visualization technique. Visualizing the great sun was equivalent to possessing the power of the great sun. The woman remained silent. Where did this freak come from? Just at the bone transformation realm, she possessed such abilities? Even the most powerful scions of noble families couldn't do this much? Had she been sealed away for too long, falling behind the times? She began to slowly retreat, no longer resisting the great sun Dharma image. Her figure had become incredibly illusory, and her previous efforts had all been in vain. I will take it back later, she left behind, her figure completely dissipating. Along with her, the eerie domain that had enveloped the three mountains gathering also vanished. Thus, the three mountains gathering finally returned to normal. Li Heng frowned, staring at the yin source pearl in his hand, showing little joy. Merely a phantom could resist the power of the great sun Dharma image. Even if it was just a cheap imitation. What would happen if the real form manifested? With a thought, a data panel appeared. If he could successfully identify this yin source pearl, perhaps he could glean some information from it. Yin source pearl, one of the core elements of a certain sealing array, used to seal great demons and weaken their power. Operating principle, extracts the power of the sealed target, such as yin energy, primordial energy, blood energy, and true energy. Current status, yin energy 100%, fully charged, containing 50% of the sealed target's cultivation. Li Heng gradually understood some of the information he saw. No wonder that woman, that strange, or rather, that great demon, was so eager to obtain this yin source pearl. It turned out it contained 50% of her cultivation. No wonder this great demon couldn't manifest its true form. It was sealed, so why could it break free now? However, judging from its appearance, it didn't seem completely broken, otherwise, its true form would have already manifested. Could it be, because of the gradually increasing yin energy? Li Heng thought about it and became increasingly convinced it was possible. It was probably because this yin energy had broken the already fragile balance. However, for the strange domain to envelop the three mountains gathering without being completely broken was terrifying. In other words, if the surrounding yin energy were a little denser, allowing this great demon to break free of its seal to reach a higher level. Even with a great sun Dharma image, he probably wouldn't win so easily. If the seal is completely broken, he'll have no choice but to run. He was a little arrogant at first, but now he's not. It seems that even the innate level isn't so easy to deal with. But that's not surprising. After all, he's only at the minor bone refining realm, and his visualization progress of the great sun Dharma image is only 10%. Oh, now it's 11%. His divine Deo avatar just gave him feedback that his great sun visualization has reached 11%, and his vast earth visualization has reached 2%. He withdrew his distracting thoughts and looked around. The three mountains gathering, which was originally extremely silent, suddenly became lively, even chaotic. Because those who had fainted had woken up, and seeing themselves collapsed on the street in the middle of the night, and others like them, they were instantly terrified. Some even screamed. Li Heng couldn't help but shake his head. It seems he didn't need to report it. It's possible that the news was received in Beacon City before dawn. He should get down to business. Wait for that great demon to break the seal and come to settle accounts with him? How could that be possible? Li Heng sneered. He immediately unleashed the myriad miles soul-chasing technique, using the aura of the Yin Source Pearl to track down the sealing formation. He wasn't going to sit idly by and wait to die. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55. The crowds are like a horde of corpses. With a thought, he activated the 10,000-mile soul tracking technique. He looked at the Yin Source Pearl in his hand, intending to use it as a foundation to lock onto the source of the original sealing formation by focusing on the residual energy. However, he quickly frowned. There were too many people shouting and yelling around, making the entire street chaotic and causing the energy to become intricate and difficult to track. In addition, the Yin Source Pearl was also very mysterious, only allowing him to track the general direction. The area around the three mountains gathering was surrounded by dense forests. But what use was a general direction? Even a slight deviation from the angle would lead to a significant difference. Li Heng thought for a while, then casually pushed through the chaotic crowd, forcing a path through the middle of the road. He planned to find the family of three and try to extract information from them. At this moment, the streets of the three mountains gathering were teeming with people. This was because fear and anxiety are contagious. They had heard that everyone had just fallen asleep. They had heard that more than a dozen mummified corpses had appeared on the West Street. Rumors circulated that several people had lost their heads on East Street, their eyes still moving. The rumors grew increasingly outrageous. Eventually, it became a direct message that the three mountains gathering was about to be destroyed, and the earlier drowsiness was a divine warning. This intensified the people's fear and anxiety. Most who were sleeping peacefully at home were awakened by the commotion. After learning the cause, they too felt fear and rushed out of their homes. Some, quick-witted, had already escaped the three mountains gathering and fled to the nearby mountains to await dawn. Some wealthy and clever individuals were already on boats. The crowd surged towards the outside of the three mountains gathering. Li Heng, however, stood out conspicuously, going against the flow. The human tide was like a horde of corpses, capable of swallowing lives. Li Heng, standing amidst it all, sighed. In such a panicked and fearful chaos, even more people would likely die. In the trampling and jostling of the crowd, people might truly perish. Looking down from above, one could see. The once dimly lit Sanshin gathering was now brightly lit and incredibly noisy, filled with a deafening clamor of gongs and drums. The crisscrossing, grid-like roads were packed with people, completely impassable. The surrounding villages, hearing the commotion, were utterly bewildered. What was going on at the Sanshin gathering? Were they not allowed to sleep? In a corner, Lu Dafu and his family of three were hiding. They hadn't followed the crowd, knowing that squeezing in would likely result in them being trampled to death. It was better to stay hidden. Moreover, Lu Dafu had a vague suspicion. Perhaps the trouble at the Sanshin gathering had already been resolved by that important person. Lu Dafu looked at the exhausted Lu Sun in Tang Rong's arms, a sense of melancholy washing over him. Could this child be connected to that important person? After all, the child had clearly gone out to play during the rainy day, yet his clothes were dry when he returned. Unless the child hadn't gone to play in the water, but that was unlikely. As an antique dealer, one's eye must be sharp, requiring meticulous attention to detail. If he hadn't been so perceptive, he would have been swindled and taken advantage of long ago. He wouldn't have amassed such a fortune. Sigh, these are truly turbulent times, Lu Dafu sighed, his face filled with worry. Wah! Suddenly, a child's cry rang out. Lu Dafu and Tang Rong's expressions changed. In the crowded throng, they saw a little girl who had fallen to the ground. But the surrounding people wouldn't stop because of anyone's cry. In fact, they mistook the cry for the wailing of a vengeful spirit, intensifying their panic and making their steps even more hurried. Initially, they unconsciously tried to step over the obstacle on the ground, the little girl, to avoid falling. But in their haste, they couldn't care less and stepped directly at the obstacle, the little girl. Oh no. The two realized something was wrong. They immediately stood up, trying to pull the little girl away, but the distance was too great, they couldn't save her in time. By the time they reached the other side, the little girl had already been trampled more than a dozen times, and children's bodies are inherently fragile. At that critical moment, a strong arm reached out from the crowd, lifting the little girl by the back of her neck, preventing her from being trampled. Heng, holding the little girl with one hand, his body like a boulder in a river, directly parted the surging crowd, appearing before Lu Dafu and his companions. He approached them, expressionless. Is this your child too? No, this child just fell to the ground, and we wanted to help her. It's all thanks to your intervention, otherwise, this child would probably have met a terrible end. Lu Dafu quickly denied, sighing with gratitude. Heng frowned. This was troublesome. What's your relationship with Yi Qing? Are you also surnamed Ji? He asked calmly. Mentioning Yi Qing, Lu Dafu was taken aback. Sir, may I ask what happened to Yi Qing? He swallowed hard, shrinking back, somewhat timid. Because he had a rough idea of the identity of the man before him, he was probably the legendary demon slayer. I killed him with one punch. The cause of death, related to the supernatural. Tell me, what are your names? What is Yi Qing's true background? Lu Dafu hurriedly explained, his expression flustered. Sir, my surname is Lu, and my wife's surname is Tang. We have never been involved with Yi Qing. Please, sir, understand. He quickly relayed Yi Qing's information to Heng. Heng frowned. He didn't suspect this family of three of being involved with Yi Qing. After all, in his view, this family of three had no trace of yin energy and no martial arts background. They were completely ordinary people. At most, they were a little rich. Unless this family of three could deceive the heavenly eye of King Maya Adeo's Henjin. Although his visualized heavenly eye state was only temporary, its essence hadn't been weakened much. Using the heavenly eye to observe things and people would only have two results. One was that the visualization level was too low, and he couldn't see through it. The other is the ability to see through everything. There's never any question of being deceived. At least not at this level. His expression softened, and he put the little girl down. Keep an eye on her for now, don't let her run around. Once this group calms down, take her to her parents, otherwise she'll most likely be trampled to death. Lu Dafu nodded, it was his duty. You said that Yi Qing is from Jinggan village? He's always wandering around the village ruins, looking for antiques? Yes. I met Yi Qing during an antique transaction. Lu Dafu nodded quickly. Which direction is Jinggan village? Southwest. Heng seemed thoughtful. This was almost exactly the direction he had been tracking. Could the ceiling formation be in Jinggan village, or in the mountains near Jinggan village? After questioning Lu Dafu and confirming that there was no suspicion, it was nearly dawn. The yin energy began to recede, and the yang energy began to rise, returning to the human world. With the yang energy abundant during the day, he no longer needed to worry too much about the three mountains gathering. This kind of matter is best left to the people in Bian City to worry about. Heng planned to leave for Jinggan village. Before leaving, he looked at Lu Sun and asked, does this child have a nickname, a childhood name, or a courtesy name? No, sir, Lu Dafu replied. Then I think Shuren would be more appropriate. Heng's words were meaningful as he turned and left. Chapter 56 The Way of Heaven is Natural. At dawn, just as day was breaking, the three mountains gathering had suffered a major upheaval, and things were no better in Bian City. The rising concentration of yin energy in the surrounding area had attracted countless evil spirits and strange occurrences. Inside the Demon Exorcism Bureau, Meng Lingai looked at the densely packed documents before him, like a mountain of books and a sea of questions, and felt a headache coming on. Even though he had returned early and taken precautions, many deaths had still occurred, especially in the outer city, where entire boatloads of people had perished. In the southern city, a pleasure boat spontaneously combusted without fire. The fire could not be extinguished by water, no one escaped, and even the remains were never found. In the northern city, a scholar was turned into a desiccated corpse overnight. In the eastern city, fragmented body parts were found in a restaurant, missing only the head. Finally, in the western city, the head was found at a dock, facing downstream in the Tongshan River, as if it had been trying to escape. All four districts of the outer city had been affected. Fortunately, the inner city remained unscathed. Meng Lingai sighed inwardly. Just the rising concentration of yin energy had caused so much trouble. It seems this wave, this turning point, might be even more intense than it was 20 years ago. He frowned, calculating the time. According to past practice, the powerful families should be arriving by now, right? But if the Wang family knew that the land temple they built had been ruined by that fox Ren Hai, with almost no one worshipping or maintaining it, wouldn't they be furious? He rubbed his temples, feeling an even bigger headache. Forget it, let that old fox Ren Hai worry about this. Today, he needed to strengthen the defenses of the outer city, sealing off the location of the strange occurrence, just in case. Just as he was about to get a file to review, bang! With a loud bang, the door to the room was violently pushed open, slamming against the surrounding walls. The force was so great that it even chipped a corner off the door. Who is it? So hasty and unruly. Meng Lingayan frowned, extremely displeased. Old Meng, something terrible has happened. A man 8 feet tall, with a burly build, unshaven beard, and whose Demon Extermination Bureau uniform looked too small for him, strode in, his expression grave. This was Xiao Hui, the deputy director of the Demon Extermination Bureau of Begins City. Meng Lingayan was slightly taken aback, his expression immediately turning serious. He knew Xiao Hui's abilities, a second-level true Qi realm expert, his innate Qi was incredibly powerful, and he had previously fought a true Qi realm expert head-on. For him to feel something was terribly wrong, it must be something serious. Something happened at the Three Mountains gathering. According to those who escaped, everyone at the Three Mountains gathering inexplicably fell into deep sleep late at night, only waking up around 1 a.m. But strangely, it seems no one died. Or rather, those who died were simply overwhelmed by the panic, fell to the ground, and were trampled to death by the terrified crowd. Xiao Hui's expression became somewhat strange as he mentioned this. But you should know that's not the point. Meng Lingayan nodded solemnly. For everyone in the Three Mountains gathering to faint, there must be a gigantic, eerie domain enveloping the gathering. Otherwise, this phenomenon would be impossible. That's the most terrifying thing. Meng Lingayan seemed somewhat shocked. You mean, has that peerless demon escaped? Xiao Hui swallowed hard, his expression grave. Impossible. If she escaped, everyone in the Three Mountains gathering would be doomed. Perhaps she can only temporarily interfere with the world? Did the aristocratic family say the seal was very strong? How come she's escaped now that the yin energy concentration has just increased? Meng Lingayan thought of a past event, his expression grim. What should we do now? Xiao Hui felt a sense of helplessness. Although he was quite naive 20 years ago and hadn't personally experienced that battle, he knew very well that the level of terror was simply beyond their capabilities. Report this to the headquarters. Then we can only wait for the aristocratic families to arrive. Meng Lingayan remained silent for a moment, then said wistfully. Xiao Hui's expression froze, and he nodded with difficulty. He understood the unspoken meaning in Meng Lingayan's words, to disregard the Three Mountains gathering and the lives of everyone involved. This was cruel, but it was the best choice. There's a saying, a small earthquake doesn't require running, a big earthquake won't. This perfectly described the situation. They could only defend Begins City to the death. Meng Lingayan looked out the window at the dawning sky, a sense of powerlessness rising within him. Little Li, I hope you're still alive, he sighed sadly. On the official road leading to Begins City, a young Taoist boy, dressed in a bluish-purple robe and wearing a yin-yang crown, rode backwards on a thin donkey. His face was youthful, only 15 or 16 years old. But strangely, behind him, a group of young men on strong horses, dressed in luxurious robes, their jade pendants jingling, followed slowly. They proceeded cautiously, not daring to overtake the young Taoist. Beautiful green mountains stretched on either side, the dawn light illuminating the misty forests. But the young Taoist paid no heed, instead lowering his head and performing some mysterious, incomprehensible breathing. Each breath carried a unique charm. The Great Li Kingdom was vast, its foundation corrupt and decaying. Naturally, there were starving refugees along the official roads. When these refugees saw the young Taoist and his group, their eyes lit up. They immediately crowded around, wanting to beg for some food. The youths behind them didn't dare to stop them. They looked down on these lowly wretches, even less than peasants. But last time, when these lowly wretches tried to beg, they had stopped and even kicked them. This junior uncle had then reprimanded them. Then, With a gentle smile, he had given those lowly wretches and refugees some food, even clothing, making them realize that this junior uncle was still too soft-hearted. "Please, have mercy, give us some food. Please." The refugees pleaded repeatedly, drawing disdain from the young man behind them. "What good would food do? You still wouldn't survive more than a few days. Did you really think you could find another city? The mountains and forests were far too dangerous." The pleading made the young Taoist open his eyes. "You want food?" the young Taoist asked kindly. The refugees were disheveled, their clothes tattered, some even just a few scraps of cloth, their eyes dull and lifeless, like cloudy glass beads. But seeing the young Taoist's kind expression, they thought he was easy to talk to and nodded vigorously. "I see." The young Taoist scratched his head, somewhat troubled. "Let me calculate." The young Taoist closed his eyes, made a few calculations with his fingers, then opened his eyes lighting up. "You are truly lucky. It turns out that heaven wants you to return to nature. No wonder you encountered me." Return to nature? The refugees were utterly confused. "Dust to dust, ashes to ashes," the young Taoist chanted, and all the refugees froze. Then a gust of wind blew, and their bodies turned into dust and drifted away, returning to nature. The youths behind him shuddered at the sight. What was wrong with this junior uncle? Why did he suddenly kill them again? Wasn't he being so kind and gentle with food before? Are all those who joined the Taoist sect mentally ill? They were all from the same aristocratic family, and before he made them call him junior uncle, but now he's killing them. What's going on? The youths were puzzled. How far is it to Begin City? After clearing out the refugees, the young Taoist nodded in satisfaction. It seemed he was one step closer to the heavenly Dao, so he asked happily. "According to the map, it's not far." The young man at the head of the group said respectfully. "Well, let's continue. Call me little Taoist when we get there." The young Taoist nodded in satisfaction and continued to lower his head, performing some kind of mysterious breathing. The three mountains gathering, southwest direction. At this moment, Li Heng arrived in front of Jing'an Village. Chapter 57 Jing'an Village. Jing'an Village is located deep in the mountains, at the foot of an unnamed mountain. The path is narrow and treacherous, even inhabited by snakes and venomous insects, making it quite a journey for Li Heng. He was somewhat speechless. To get rich, build roads first, he thought. Aren't they afraid of falling off cliffs or being bitten by venomous snakes on such narrow paths? The villagers were incredibly reckless. Beside Li Heng stood his divine avatar, holding the yin source pearl. The immense yin energy contained within the yin source pearl was being slowly absorbed by the divine avatar. The reason that Great Demon had retreated so easily was probably because she was certain that Li Heng, a normal human, wouldn't need the yin source pearl. But she never imagined that Li Heng had a divine avatar formed from a yin demonic embryo. He smiled slightly. Now, there was no need to search for a place rich in yin energy. The yin energy contained in the yin source pearl was enough for his newborn divine avatar to absorb for a long time. Standing at the entrance of Jing'an Village, he looked out. This was an unremarkable little village, its houses scattered in a haphazard fashion, some with thatched roofs, others with tiled roofs, wisps of smoke rising from their chimneys. Dawn was breaking, it was time to make breakfast. Everything seemed natural and peaceful. Li Heng placed his divine avatar outside the village, concealing it. He strode into Jing'an Village, startling some birds that had landed on the ground pecking at rice scraps, causing them to take flight. Although it was only dawn, a few villagers were already on the roads of Jing'an Village, carrying hoes and shovels, clearly intending to go to work in the fields. Li Heng wasn't surprised. Rural people naturally rise early. He stopped a seemingly honest, unassuming old farmer, who appeared to be a seasoned laborer. "Old man, where's your village chief?" In fact, these villagers had already noticed Li Heng, this outsider, but seeing his luxurious clothes and imposing presence, they dared not approach. They could only mutter to themselves, "Which scoundrel has caused trouble again? Perhaps the officials have come to arrest someone." But where were those arrogant yamen runners? The villager stopped by Li Heng panicked. Honestly, in all his life, this was the first time he'd encountered such a situation. "Young master, what business do you have with the village chief? He lives in the middle of the village." The old man hesitated, recalling his son's words. Calling someone dressed like this young master was perfectly appropriate. But he wondered, what did young master mean? The middle of the village? "Thank you then." Li Heng didn't waste any more words, thanking him before heading straight for the village center. The old man watched Li Heng's departing figure, puzzled. Something his son hadn't said seemed off. Would a young master thank someone? On his way to the village center, Li Heng frowned, because his 10,000-mile soul tracking had stopped there, unable to continue. This was one of the reasons he'd asked the villager. Li Heng wasn't surprised. How could such a strange sealing array, capable of sealing a great demon, be found so easily? If it were easy to find, it would have been unlocked long ago. Why would he have to come knocking? It's strange, really. He always felt that the layout of the houses in Jing'an village had a certain charm. In other words, the feng shui was too good. As if they were all placed in special locations. Arriving in the middle of the village, a tall building came into Li Heng's view. Although mostly made of wood, its sheer size made it stand out from the surrounding houses, even having a courtyard. However, the courtyard was probably used for raising chickens. Li Heng couldn't help but sigh. Although the village was somewhat remote, the village chief was still the village chief. He could always make some money. The Demon Exorcism Bureau has arrived. Village chief, come out and see us. Li Heng called out loudly, looking at the tall building. He didn't want to waste any more time. After all, who knew when that strange demon would break free of its seal? If it did, he really wouldn't be able to handle it with his current strength. Inside the courtyard, an old man nearing 80, his back slightly hunched, looked worried. The commotion last night had been terrifying. Even the sight of so many chickens in the yard couldn't make him happy. Li Heng's voice rang out, instantly startling the old man. Then, a look of wild joy appeared on his face. The Demon Exorcism Bureau? Had the government not abandoned them? Their village was saved? The old man trembled, but it was with excitement. He quickly grabbed his cane and hurried towards the door. This could very well be their village's savior. He couldn't afford to be negligent. Reaching the door, Li Heng's young, robust figure came into view, instantly freezing the old man's expression. Sir? Are you the demon exorcist? The old man asked tentatively. Yes, I am. This is my token. Li Heng calmly produced his token. The old man blinked a few times, examining it closely, confirming that the token wasn't fake. He had seen it before. Then, sir, where are the others? The old man looked at Li Heng, glancing around. The token was real, but that wasn't enough to bring him joy. He had a bad feeling. There's no one else, just myself. These words ruthlessly shattered the old man's hope. His once bright eyes instantly dimmed, turning him from a spirited old man into someone half-buried. The government, have they abandoned us? The old man murmured. Li Heng frowned. It seemed he had indeed found the right person. This village chief might know something. However, seeing the old man's desperate expression, he didn't seem to believe him. Whether they've abandoned me or not, I don't know. I'm just here to resolve this matter. Old man, tell me your worries. The old village chief shook his head. Perhaps due to excessive despair, he let loose, uttering startling words. You young man, what are you doing in this dangerous place alone? You're probably just someone's scapegoat. Go back, there's no escaping it. The old man looked up at the sky, utterly melancholy. Li Heng was speechless. He hated riddle makers. They could have explained things clearly, but instead, they made it all so convoluted. Anyone who knows about strange and evil matters but fails to report them shall be killed. He uttered this law of the great Li dynasty indifferently. The village elder's face stiffened. This young man possessed such a murderous aura, truly worthy of being a member of the Exorcism Bureau. No, he couldn't die now. The chicks he had just bought hadn't grown up yet. Even if he died, he would wait until the chicks were grown. HMPH, you came here knowing nothing? Perhaps knowing his days were numbered, and having previously interacted with the Exorcism Bureau and government officials. He held no reverence for Li Heng's status as an exorcist. Therefore, his words were somewhat casual, like an old man reprimanding a junior. Li Heng responded calmly to the old man's words, a calmness tinged with murderous intent, which made the village elder shudder. This exorcist was so fierce, just like that Meng fellow from before. Alright, then I'll tell you. The village elder revealed the secret of Jing'an village. Chapter 58, Planning a Speedrun. As the village chief recounted the events, a corner of history from 20 years ago was finally revealed, clearing some of the fog for Li Heng. It turned out that the so-called Jing'an village was actually two villages, Jing village and In village. However, 20 years ago, Everyone in Jing village died suddenly. To avoid panic, the government deliberately suppressed the news, renaming N village to Jing'an village. At the same time, they forbade the people of N village from escaping. Li Heng frowned as he listened. Just to suppress the news, they wouldn't allow the entire village to escape? Wasn't that a bit too much trouble? He told the village chief this question. The old man shook his head. I don't know either. But I overheard your demon extermination division's conversation back then, talking about some kind of human energy, some kind of formation, and other mysterious and difficult to understand things. The village chief said with a wry smile. Didn't you ever think about forcibly escaping? After all, this place is so remote, the government and the demon extermination division won't be monitoring you all the time. It's useless, the old man sighed. Some young people tried to escape before, but they all died suddenly. After the government learned of this, they issued us a stern warning. Anyone who tries to escape will be killed without mercy. After that, how could we dare to leave? At least we can live if we stay here. Reaching the 3 mountains gathering is the maximum area we can move in, like a curse. So, young man, you should leave as soon as possible. The old man advised Li Heng. Li Heng remained unmoved and continued, then what is it that you are worried about? Stop playing riddles. The old man was silent for a moment, then continued, last night, there were lights on in Jing village, and even shadowy figures moving around. But everyone in Jing village should be dead, the place is deserted. And just before, when everyone in Jing village died, one of your demon extermination divisions came and warned us not to go to Jing village, or we would face the consequences. The old man smiled bitterly as he recounted this. Although I've lived in the mountains for most of my life and don't know many words or have read many books, I still know the word strange very well. Li Heng listened thoughtfully. He didn't doubt the old man's sincerity. After all, under his divine eye, the old man was just an ordinary person, and there was nothing unusual about his words. Where is Jing village? Hearing Li Heng's question, the old man was taken aback. You want to go to Jing village? No, absolutely not. Even in daylight, Jing village is eerie. You'll likely meet with disaster there. He said anxiously. Just tell me where it is, no need for further explanation. Li Heng said calmly. In terms of combat power, he possessed the great Sun Dharma form. In terms of escape, he had the shrinking earth technique of his divine avatar. He wasn't boasting, even if a great demon broke its seal and emerged, he would still be able to escape. Young man, why won't you learn to turn back until you hit a brick wall? The old man, leaning on his cane, shook the ground and said angrily. According to the laws of Dali, Li Heng said calmly. Although he knew the old man meant well, he didn't need that kind of well-being. Fine, then I won't try to dissuade you. Go through the village and keep going deeper. And you'll see a ruin hidden deep in the mountains. That's Jing village, the old village chief said angrily. Why wouldn't this young man listen to reason? Oh well. Anyway, it's daytime now, so nothing should happen. Once you get there, you'll definitely be scared back. The old man sat on a boulder, thinking angrily. Li Heng ignored him and headed straight for Jing village. After passing N village, they were now completely deep in the mountains. Li Heng frowned. This place was indeed not simple, because the closer they got to Jing village, the denser the yin energy became. They were only halfway there, and the density was already the same as last night. He strongly suspected that Jing village had already become a ghostly realm, no longer belonging to the human world. He took a step forward. The surroundings instantly turned gloomy, as if he had just stepped across the boundary between the human world and hell, the rising sun blocked by dark clouds, unable to shine here. Li Heng arrived at Jing village, or rather, at ruins, surrounded by crumbling walls and broken tiles. Some abandoned houses had their doors missing, revealing their dark interiors, like entrances to hell. He wasn't afraid and wandered around. Unexpectedly, he searched the entire village but still couldn't see a single ghost. Li Heng raised an eyebrow. This didn't make sense, the yin energy was so dense, almost forming a ghostly realm. Did he have to wait until nightfall? Just as this thought arose, a flash of inspiration struck him, the 5 points of luck he possessed faintly pulsed, seemingly confirming his view. Li Heng had a headache, this ghostly village didn't seem so dangerous. What use was it if he couldn't even come out in broad daylight? But since he was already here, Li Heng thought it over and decided to stay until nightfall. He'd just meditate on the sun during the day, it had been a long time since he'd done that. Although he'd assigned the task of meditating on the sun to his divine avatar, it didn't mean his main body couldn't. With both the main body and the avatar meditating together, it would be even faster. Anyway, he had nothing else to do during the day. Time rolled by like a wheel, crushing the garbage of history and bringing back long-buried stories. It was nearing dusk, and the world was once again filled with rising yin energy and rampant demons. Outside Jing village, Li Heng awoke from his meditation and opened his eyes. The surrounding scenery was vastly different. The village was no longer a ruin, but had complete houses, with wisps of smoke rising from the chimneys, indicating that someone lived there. The laughter of children playing could be heard intermittently. Finally here. He stretched his limbs, his body crackling with energy. He placed his divine avatar outside Jing village, awaiting any eventuality. Li Heng himself slowly walked into Jing village. Under a large banyan tree, several old men were chatting and laughing. The old men looked surprised when they saw Li Heng approaching. "Hey, who are you? You look unfamiliar. Are you here for tonight's festival? You've come at the right time. Young man, let me tell you, although the village isn't big, it gets very lively whenever there's a festival." The old men smiled familiarly. "Guest, have you prepared a gift? You can't attend a festival without one," one of the old men reminded him. Li Heng raised an eyebrow. A festival? So he had to wait until tonight? Then attend the festival. Uncover the truth behind it? Uncover the truth about Jing village, and the mystery of everyone's sudden deaths? He smiled confidently. He knew this all too well. It was just like a horror game: collect clues, solve puzzles, and escape. However, unfortunately, he planned to speed things up. With a thought, the great sun dharma image appeared, illuminating this land. Chapter 59 Scene Reenactment. A village. The old village chief looked towards Jing village, his face filled with worry. Why hadn't that young man returned yet? A wave of regret washed over him. He should have known better than to impulsively tell that young man the location of Jing village. It was already dusk, and night was approaching. But the young man still hadn't returned. He felt a pang of melancholy. It seemed the young man was in grave danger. "Don't come any closer." In Jing village, the villagers scrambled and stumbled as if some terrifying force, a tyrant, had invaded their village. They were practically running for their lives. A ball of fire flew into a house, and in almost a blink of an eye, the house was ablaze, instantly reduced to ashes, along with the villagers inside. Li Heng, the villain, was now leisurely and content. He manifested the great sun dharma image, and after his light shone upon the area, the villagers dared not approach him at all. Those who tried to get close were reduced to ashes by the great sun dharma image before they could even take a few steps. These strange occurrences were quite convincing, Li Heng remarked. If it weren't for the fact that, in his divine eye, these villagers all appeared like malevolent spirits, strange and eerie. A pervasive aura of yin energy, radiating resentment and malice, would have made it difficult for him to act. He unleashed a punch. With an invisible impact, it directly shattered the wooden house in front of Li Heng, sending shards of wood and debris flying, raising clouds of dust. He emerged from the dust and saw a large group of Jing village villagers gathered before him, or perhaps more accurately, the strange creatures of Jing village. There were about 50 of them, all young and strong, wielding fine steel knives, their faces grim. Li Heng raised an eyebrow, a look of amusement on his face. It seemed this strange village was finally going to retaliate. "You damned outsider, how dare you turn our village into this state? You deserve to die," a young man at the head of the group roared viciously, seemingly their leader. "It's alright, it's all ruins now anyway. What I'm doing now is just to restore it to its original state." Li Heng smiled lightly, a wisp of true solar fire shooting out. The group's expressions changed, and they quickly dodged. This wisp of true solar fire, while not incredibly fast, was still quite powerful. It struck an unfortunate soul who couldn't dodge in time, instantly incinerating him. However, they seemed fearless. Seeing their companion reduced to ashes, their eyes grew even fiercer, and they charged at Li Heng with their Vajra blades, seemingly intent on cleaving him into 8 pieces. 4 pieces for minced meat, 4 pieces for cured meat. Li Heng was somewhat surprised. He had maintained his great sun dharma form manifestation. These strange entities had entered the range of his great sun dharma form's light, yet they hadn't vanished, their power had merely diminished. Were they actually a single entity, seemingly 50-odd people? Realizing this, Li Heng immediately saw the truth. In his heavenly eye visualization state, the auras of these 50-odd strange entities were all connected, interdependent. Unbelievable. Even strange entities understood the power of unity. Li Heng shook his head. You little monsters, not belonging to this world, you've done your best. He spoke calmly, then with a thought, the great sun dharma image above his head trembled, radiating an even more dazzling light, as if a higher wattage light bulb had been switched on. Instantly, the group of monsters still charging towards Li Heng were reduced to ashes in this dazzling light. After eliminating these monsters, Li Heng wandered around the village, searching for any that had escaped. But it seemed that these 50-odd monsters were the strongest force in this strange village. After that, Li Heng couldn't find a trace of any monsters at all. It was as if he had truly wiped them all out. Li Heng frowned. He knew perfectly well that this was impossible. Because when he had just eliminated these monsters, he hadn't had a single bit of source energy. This was enough to show that things were not simple. As he wandered around, Li Heng returned to the village entrance. It was already night. The moon, which had been incredibly bright, scattering its light across the earth, was now obscured by dark, gloomy clouds, making the place extremely dark, as if it were a place without light. The only light. This was Li Heng's great sun dharma form. However, this phenomenon further confirmed Li Heng's suspicion that things wouldn't end so easily. The ghost domain hadn't been broken yet. He suddenly frowned. The concentration of yin energy around him had increased again. He had just used his great sun dharma form to circle the village several times, almost completely eliminating the yin energy within. But now, yin energy had reappeared. It seemed to surge from an unfathomable realm, from the depths of hell. In the blink of an eye, the great sun dharma form vanished. Suddenly, the scene before him blurred. The village, which Li Heng had ravaged beyond recognition, instantly returned to its original state, the houses intact, the village bustling with activity, and brightly lit. Under the banyan tree, the same old elders were still sitting, chatting and laughing. Li Heng raised an eyebrow. Interesting. Is this what one has to face for breaking the rules? He slowly walked to the banyan tree. Hey, who are you? You look unfamiliar. Are you here for tonight's festival? You've certainly come at the right time. The elders spoke, repeating their previous conversation. However, unlike before, this time, the so-called festival had begun. This was why Jing village was bustling with activity and brightly lit. The festival has begun, I see. Li Heng nodded. Go quickly, guest. Remember to bring gifts. The elder said with smiles. Then my slaughter festival begins. He said calmly, manifesting the great sun dharma form once again. Before long, Li Heng had stepped into the center of the village, the place where the festival was being held. He looked around, drawing his sword and looking around blankly. There was no other reason than that he had swept through Jing village again. The plot was no different from before. At most, a new character appeared, the village chief of Jing village. He stood in the center of the festival, constantly beckoning to Li Heng. Then he was killed by Li Heng with a single punch, very fragile. But Li Heng still did not receive any source power. The village, which had been swept by his great sun dharma form, was now filled with yin energy, increasing in concentration. He frowned, prematurely withdrawing the still continuous great sun dharma form to avoid excessively consuming his own power and vitality. Sure enough, the intact Jing village reappeared. The great sun dharma image manifested, casually killing the reappearing village chief, ignoring the surrounding villagers who scattered and screamed in a bizarre manner. Li Heng pondered. This shouldn't be happening. His great sun dharma image had swept over it several times, already imbued with the intent to vanquish demons and evil. Logically, this place should have been purified long ago, so why does this eerie village still exist? Could the key not be this place, but rather the inexplicably appearing yin energy? Perhaps he had purified this place repeatedly, but it would soon be infected by the re-emerging yin energy, turning back into a strange realm. He considered this possibility, and the 5 points of luck he possessed further confirmed this possibility. So, it's all resurrected by yin energy? He thought he'd hit the jackpot, encountering a strange entity containing rules. Li Heng sneered. Lots of yin energy, so what? Playing tricks, huh? He directly summoned his divine avatar. Let's see if there's more yin energy here, or if the divine avatar absorbs more. Chapter 60 Sealing Location. The yin source pearl is, after all, a small pearl. Although its yin energy is as vast as the sea, due to certain limitations, The Divine Path Avatar can only absorb it slowly. It's like trying to pump seawater with a few meters of pipe. You could pump until you died and still not drain it. Of course, this is just an exaggerated analogy. The yin energy within the yin source pearl isn't actually that much. At most, it can only allow the current Divine Path Avatar to absorb it for a few years. This speed isn't linear either. As the Divine Path Avatar grows, the essence of the yin demon primordial embryo will become even more terrifying, perhaps even within a few years. This place is strange. With dense yin energy, even if it's purified, it will reappear. This is actually suitable for the Divine Path Avatar, allowing it to grow rapidly, which is also beneficial to Li Heng. In short, he has connections in both the righteous and the wicked. The Divine Path Avatar arrived at the center of Jing village, on the altar. Under Li Heng's command, it unleashed its appetite, frantically absorbing the surrounding yin energy. Gradually, a huge vortex of yin energy formed. With the absorption of yin energy, the Divine Path Avatar's aura grew stronger and stronger, quickly breaking through the boundary of the nourishing Yuan realm and reaching the foundation establishment and body tempering stage. However, perhaps due to its exceptionally high inherent quality, the yin demon primordial embryo had a significantly larger experience bar than others. Even after absorbing all the surrounding yin energy, the yin demon primordial embryo still hadn't reached a bone-refining realm. Of course, this was also because Li Heng had purified the area several times, resulting in a much lower concentration of yin energy than before, insufficient for the yin demon primordial embryo to grow rapidly. Li Heng was somewhat surprised and pleased. Surprised by the yin demon primordial embryo's appetite, and pleased by the potential of his own Divine Path Avatar. As everyone knows, the more experience needed, the more accumulated, the more stable the foundation, and the stronger the combat power after a breakthrough. In game terminology, that's the difference between a normal stat panel and an elite stat panel. You only gain one attribute point per level, while someone else gains 10, gradually widening the gap. The Divine Path Avatar's absorption didn't stop. After all, there was still inexplicably appearing yin energy surging into the world. This was also being continuously absorbed by the Divine Path Avatar. Every bit that appeared was absorbed. Li Heng looked up at the sky. The dark clouds above had thinned considerably, seemingly allowing the moonlight to faintly shine through. Clearly, the yin energy was diminishing, and the foundation of this eerie realm was being shaken, on the verge of collapse. Suddenly, the strange creatures from Jing village appeared around him, surrounding Li Heng. Their faces were pale, their bodies swaying, and their eyes emitted a bluish light as they stared intently at Li Heng, conspicuous in the night, sending chills down one's spine. Even the village chief of Jing'an village, whom Li Heng had casually killed, appeared, staring blankly at him. Li Heng shook his head. He had thought these strange creatures possessed intelligence. It seemed they were ultimately pitiful. Dying suddenly in one night. What special ability could they possibly have to retain intelligence after becoming strange creatures? Their previous speech, their orderly words, were probably just a reenactment of past events under some mechanism. If someone were willing to investigate, perhaps they would know the truth of the past. Unfortunately, they encountered Li Heng, who had cleared the level quickly. No, it was more than just quick. He had completely broken the framework, directly clearing the level through sheer brute force. If this were a horror game, the protagonist would definitely be an ordinary scholar with no strength, or perhaps a martial artist with some power, but absolutely incapable of dealing with the supernatural. Li Heng, however, belongs to that exception. His style is completely out of place. He doesn't care about clues, he just flips the table and smashes these supernatural beings. Dust to dust, ashes to ashes. Why bother causing trouble when they're dead? Li Heng sighed. The villagers were pitiful before, and he pitied their plight. But now that they're dead and transformed into supernatural beings, they're not the same as they were in life. He simply punches them to purify them. Immediately, he throws a punch, unleashing a burst of light. His abilities already allowed him to roam freely in Jing village, visualizing the great sun naturally countered supernatural beings and demons. Now, these Jing village supernatural beings have lost the support of yin energy. Not only can they not be resurrected, but they can't even maintain their fighting strength. Li Heng even suspects that a blood transformation realm martial saint would be enough to clear this supernatural village. These supernatural beings are not ferocious at all now. They truly belong to the category of minor supernatural beings. Even a blood exchange realm cultivator with abundant ki and blood could easily annihilate it with a surge of energy. Soon, the eerie aura dissipated, and the source power returned. Source power plus 30. Li Heng now possessed 200 source power points, a veritable fortune. Although it wasn't enough to support another transformation of Li Heng's great Sun Dharma avatar, he needed to accumulate more. After the eerie aura of Jing village was suppressed, the dark clouds in the sky immediately dispersed. The bright, flawless moonlight bathed the earth. Though not dazzling, it was enough to dispel some darkness, allowing living beings to see at night. The eerie aura also dissipated. However, Li Heng did not leave. What a joke. A constantly regenerating eerie village was only worth 30 points of source power? Was this enough to fob off a beggar? Li Heng smiled disdainfully. Was the owner of this place trying to drive him away? Leaving aside the surging yin energy, just considering the terrifying nature of that eerie village, Li Heng estimated that without a matching countermeasure, such as his great Sun Dharma avatar, even a true Ki realm cultivator would be worn down to death. Even a relatively weak old ghost in the true Ki realm is worth 38 points of origin power, so a ghost village that can exhaust a true Ki realm cultivator is only worth 30 points? He certainly didn't believe it. The first possibility was that the ghost village hadn't perished. But that was impossible. The arrival of origin power and the 5 points of luck Li Heng possessed both indicated that the ghost village was gone. Therefore, only the second possibility remained. There was a terrifying and bizarre force behind this ghost village. For example, the great demon Li Heng encountered. He had a premonition that the sealing array was nearby. The inexplicably appearing yin energy was probably the great demon's handle, perhaps wanting to use it to interfere in the world. Or perhaps, to wear down the sealing array. He thought for a moment, then directly brought his divine avatar. Then, relying on his intuition and a sudden burst of inspiration, he wandered around the ruins of Jing village. Those 5 points of luck, why not choose them? Gradually, Li Heng found his footing. It seemed something was waiting for him ahead. He ventured deeper and deeper, even leaving the boundaries of Jing village, arriving at a pool of water. Finally, she couldn't hold back any longer. The surroundings trembled and shook once more. Just like the scene Li Heng had encountered at the Three Mountains gathering, the illusory image of the female demon slowly materialized, shifting from illusory to real, attempting to enter reality. Li Heng smiled slightly and directly manifested a great sun. Under the intense sunlight, the process of the female demon's illusory image was once again hindered, bouncing between reality and illusion, stuck in a certain range. The female demon was so angry she coughed up blood. Where did this freak come from? Being so close to her sealing location, the power she used was even stronger. But even so, she was still completely restrained by this damn Dharma form. Let me guess, is the sealing location here? Chapter 61 Sealing Altar. Let's make some terms. The female demon spoke, her voice clear and melodious, like the song of a nightingale, without a trace of eeriness, as if she were a fairy descended from the 9 heavens. It seems I was right, the sealing location is here. Li Heng smiled slightly. He didn't respond to the female demon's words. The female demon frowned. Which family do you belong to? Perhaps I know your elders. Even now, this female demon still believed that Li Heng was from a noble family and possessed bloodline abilities. Otherwise, his strength could not be so terrifying, able to suppress her manifestation. Li Heng ignored her and instead looked at the pools of water. The surface of the water was very calm, like a mirror, quietly reflecting the bright moon in the sky, embracing it in his arms, which looked very beautiful. But he always felt a sense of deathly stillness. There was no life in it. This pool of water, was it stagnant water? Once again ignored, the female demon was as cold as ice. Wasn't she just relying on that Dharma form? How dare a junior like her ignore her like this? If she weren't still sealed, she would have wanted to kill her directly. I think there might be something at the bottom of this pool, like an altar for sealing things, Li Heng said with a slight smile. At this moment, the female demon no longer harbored any illusions. This junior from some noble family must have known about her sealed location. So she simply stopped pretending. So what if there is? This pool may not be large, but it is bottomless. The depths contain extremely cold yin energy, and even condensed cold poison yin water. Do you dare to go in? The female demon said sarcastically. You are a sign of a noble family, you should know the power of cold poison yin water. Don't even mention your mere bone refining realm, even if you advance to the true Ki realm, You can't withstand a single drop. Li Heng was surprised. This cold poison yin water was that powerful? Fortunately, he didn't have to withstand it. Why should I dive in? He smiled disdainfully, directly causing his manifested great sun dharma image to condense solar true fire and fly towards the pool. Although the quantity was small, the true sun fire was of extremely high quality. Even though the pool was bottomless and contained so-called cold, poisonous yin water, evaporating it was still quite easy. As the true sun fire submerged in the water, the yin energy within began to invade it. However, as everyone knows, yin energy is the fuel for the true sun fire, so the true sun fire continuously burned the yin energy, eventually igniting in the water and becoming a fire within the water. Because the true sun fire possessed terrifyingly high temperatures, soon, wisps of white steam began to rise from the pool, resembling a hot spring bath. Soon, a layer of water in the pool was evaporated. The female demon stared wide-eyed, like almonds. She was dumbfounded. What kind of fire was this? Was it the Ma family's Yang extreme true flame, or the Bai family's heaven-burning fire? But it didn't make sense. The Yang extreme true flame was more than capable of exorcising demons, but lacked a domineering power. It couldn't possibly have such high temperatures. The heaven-burning fire, on the other hand, was more domineering than capable of exorcising demons, and couldn't control her at all. But while this flame countered her, it also possessed terrifying heat. If it landed on a human body, they would be reduced to ashes in a few breaths. This flame was cheating, wasn't it? Could it be that the aristocratic family's marriage alliance plan had succeeded? This young man before her was a hybrid of the Ma and Bai families. So, he created a terrifying flame possessing the advantages of both families? The more the female demon thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Wait, I have an acquaintance in the Bai family. She might be your elder, or even an assistant. Stop burning. She quickly spoke, trying to stop Li Heng. Li Heng ignored her. What Bai family? What acquaintance? What nonsense? What was this female demon thinking? He was just an ordinary person, seeking only self-preservation in this chaotic world. Killing all those who opposed him would be a successful self-preservation. Under the illumination of the great sun dharma image, this female demon could do nothing. Soon, she witnessed the extremely cold pool being completely evaporated by Li Heng's solar true fire. Look, where's the cold poison and yin water now? Li Heng smiled slightly at the female demon. The demon's lips twitched, and she fell silent. She placed her divine avatar outside the pool, ready to escape if anything went wrong. If anything unexpected happened, she could immediately use the shrinking earth technique to flee with her main body. Her main body then leaped into the pool. Well, there was no water now. To put it figuratively, it was a hole, vertically downwards, like a well. Soon, Li Heng landed on the ground. Because of the rising sun's true fire, the ground beneath the pool was scorched and cracked, broken into pieces, completely devoid of moisture. If this were truly a well, it must have suffered a 10-year drought. Without any frills, Li Heng directly saw an altar, seemingly a node in some ceiling formation. On the altar was a circular groove, probably where the yin source pearl was placed. The absence of the yin source pearl had caused the seal to loosen. This allowed the female demon to manifest her power, interfere in the world, and even shroud the three mountains gathering in a ghostly domain. Come out, I know you've been watching. You were hoping I'd mess up this altar, break the ceiling formation, and release you, weren't you? Li Heng smiled slightly, his voice echoing. From the shadows, the demon's phantom emerged. She frowned. This junior was troublesome. She had originally planned to gamble on the junior's lack of knowledge of formations, hoping it would backfire and release her. Now it seemed the gamble was pointless. Actually, the way to reseal me is to put the yin source pearl back, letting it continue absorbing my yin energy. You can try it. The demon's words were startling, directly stating the method. Li Heng frowned. A feint? I don't think so. Sending the yin source pearl back feels like throwing a lamb to the slaughter. He smiled slightly, saying this. He was still using the yin source pearl through his divine avatar, and he didn't want to put it back unless absolutely necessary. Then try other methods, the great demon said coldly. With the opening of the node and the arrival of the tide, without the yin source pearl's suppression, I'll soon break free. Then you'll be the center of the three mountains gathering and be in city. Don't try to morally blackmail me. My moral bottom line is flexible. Anyway, I didn't take out this yin source pearl in the first place, So how can I be considered a sinner? Li Heng smiled lightly, completely unconcerned by the threat. Then you wait. I can wait. When I break free, I'll make sure this area within 100 miles becomes a ghostly realm. As for you, you look quite handsome, young man. You're qualified to be my dog. The female great demon suddenly laughed. Li Heng didn't care, pondering in his mind. The Yin Source Pearl's operating principle was to absorb Yin energy to weaken the sealed target. Perhaps his divine avatar could replace the Yin Source Pearl. This avatar was a major absorber of Yin energy. He directly summoned his divine avatar. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Audacity. The divine avatar jumped down and came to Li Heng's side. Li Heng smiled and said, "If I'm not mistaken, the operating mechanism of the Yin Source Pearl is actually to absorb your power within the seal, thereby weakening you." He took out the Yin Source Pearl and tossed it in his hand repeatedly. The female demon looked at the Yin Source Pearl, then at Li Heng, gritting her teeth. If it weren't for that damn Dharma image blocking her way, she could have snatched the Yin Source Pearl back in an instant and regained the 50% of her lost cultivation. The overwhelming Yin energy in this Yin Source Pearl is probably all yours. Li Heng calmly stated this fact. Therefore, the Yin Source Pearl cannot be put back. If you don't put it back, I will break the seal sooner or later, the female demon said calmly. Who said it can't be sealed without the Yin Source Pearl? Li Heng smiled slightly. What? Do you intend to sacrifice yourself to replace the Yin Source Pearl? I advise you to give up that idea. The Yin Source Pearl can absorb and contain so much Yin energy because of its special material. You've only just begun refining your bones, relying on some abilities to show off here. Your actual cultivation level is far inferior. How could you possibly contain so much Yin energy? The female demon's lips curled into a sneer, utterly disdainful. She was still too cautious. Even if this junior found the sealed location, so what? Unless this junior was also proficient in formations, there was absolutely no way to stop him from breaking the seal. But judging from the current situation, this junior clearly didn't understand formations. Li Heng chuckled. He naturally understood the female demon's thoughts. With his true form's cultivation level, he really couldn't absorb that much Yin energy. Forcibly absorbing it would only result in his body exploding and dying. But he had a clone formed from the Yin demon primordial embryo. What? It seems you still have confidence. The female demon raised an eyebrow. Could your trump card be the clone beside you? Tisk tisk, exuding divine aura, quite a grand scheme. Which family do you belong to? How can you possess a divine clone? She was somewhat amazed and puzzled. However, if that's your plan, I still advise you not to do it. Beings who walk the path of divinity are inherently incompatible with the Yin energy and strange phenomena. Unless you want your clone to become an evil god. Completely out of control. The female demon kindly reminded him. Li Heng remained calm. The reason I was talking so much nonsense with you was to test your reaction. Even now, you still want to stop me from doing this, which means I'm on the right track. You wouldn't kindly offer a warning, would you? Fine, let's see how you'll be devised to suffer the consequences. The female demon sneered. She had indeed intentionally or unintentionally tried to induce Li Heng not to do this. After all, she was also afraid that this mysterious junior might actually reveal some trump card. Mysterious families are never short of methods. But now, they don't need to. As she said before, the path of the gods is inherently fraught with the bizarre, incompatible with the Yin energy. When Yin energy enters the body of a deity, it either severely damages their vital energy or causes them to completely fall and become an evil god. This junior doesn't interfere with the sealing formation. As the concentration of Yin energy increases, she will eventually break free. She wins. This junior uses a divine avatar to complete the sealing formation. When Yin energy enters the divine avatar, it will cause it to backfire on the original body, severely damaging its vital energy. In this way, she can even take the opportunity to reclaim the Yin Source Pearl. She wins again. In short, she's completely won. Her earlier statement that Yin energy is bad for divine avatars was just a feint. In her view, this junior is clearly arrogant, and the more she talks, the less she believes him. Fine, she'll grant this junior's wish. But if she suffers a backlash later, she can't blame herself. Li Heng, on the other hand, understands this great demon's thoughts to some extent. It's nothing more than a feint. However, he was absolutely confident. After all, this divine avatar was formed from the yin demon's primordial embryo and wouldn't reject any yin energy. She thought she would win in both possibilities. Then Li Heng would tell her, "You'll lose everything." Commanding the divine avatar to stand on the altar, Li Heng visualized his heavenly eye, observing everything before him. Instantly, some blue energy circuits appeared before him. His intention was to use the divine avatar as the core, replacing the yin source pearl, to repair this damaged sealing array. Therefore, it wouldn't be a simple matter of just stuffing it in. It had to be repaired by following the array's operation. If he was even slightly careless, he might damage the sealing array, shatter it, and cause this great demon to break free. At that point, he wouldn't be able to handle it and would have to retreat strategically. His eyes flashed, capturing the crucial point. The divine avatar's aura instantly connected with the altar and the invisible sealing array, replacing the yin source pearl to absorb the yin energy within the seal. The great demon laughed, pleased that the junior had actually succeeded. Good. Then I'll add fuel to the fire. You wanted to absorb yin energy? Here, I'll give it to you. I want to see if your divine avatar will become a giant bomb, exploding and dying instantly, or if it will fall and become an evil god, turning against its original self. The great demon's main body within the seal unleashed boundless yin energy, surging towards the node where the divine avatar was located, seemingly a raging torrent from hell. The divine avatar, as the primordial yin demon, accepted all yin energy without hesitation, absorbing as much as it came. Just like a normal person never complains about having too much money. The avatar silently absorbed the yin energy, time passing peacefully, the avatar like a bottomless pit, swallowing up any amount of yin energy without hesitation. The female great demon's face darkened. She realized something was wrong. What was going on? This level of yin energy would corrupt even a primordial level deity, right? This divine avatar hasn't even reached the true key realm, so it's impossible for it to be unaffected. Well, are you satisfied with this result? Li Heng chuckled mockingly. This is impossible. What exactly is this avatar of yours? Even if it possesses the position of a mountain god, it's absolutely impossible for it to contain so much yin energy in its own body. Wait. The great demon suddenly thought of a possibility. Suddenly, black energy burst forth around her illusory figure, as if haunted by vengeful spirits. This black energy flew directly towards the divine avatar, trying to envelop it. In Li Heng's heavenly eye state, this black energy was actually incredibly pure yin energy, which was even more nourishing for the divine avatar, so he didn't bother to stop it. Thus, it was directly devoured by the divine avatar. The great demon revealed a thoughtful expression. It could even devour her innate level yin energy? Could she really have guessed correctly? But isn't this a bit too absurd? Can that thing also walk the path of the gods? Isn't it afraid of being devoured and dying? She felt that this was challenging her worldview. Very well, you junior are a step ahead. But I will emerge. This is the inevitable trend, and you cannot stop it. Your human race will also perish. With these harsh words, the female demon's illusory figure vanished. Inside the seal, in the dark and lightless space, the female demon's true form appeared thoughtful. To actually dare to refine that thing into an avatar, what audacity. I'll see if you survive this time. She revealed a look of pleasure, having found amusement. The overwhelming yin energy once again assaulted the divine avatar. Interspersed within it was a glimmer of light. It seemed to be so light, spirit, information, and will. Chapter 63 Summoning Scripture. Li Heng was somewhat surprised. This female demon so readily admitted defeat? Did she think she was sealed away and offered no resistance? There must be a trick involved, he concluded. Anyone who reached this level would have the courage to fight to the death in dire straits. How could they simply give up and surrender? This female demon must be hiding some kind of trump card. Sure enough, he sensed yin energy attacking his divine avatar. Li Heng raised an eyebrow. Yin energy again? Wasn't this a case of trying to steal a chicken but losing the rice instead? What kind of yin energy couldn't his divine avatar, formed from the yin demon primordial embryo, absorb? Even if an entire ocean of yin energy were placed before him, given enough time, he could absorb it completely. This was precisely the heaven-defying power of the yin demon primordial embryo. Otherwise, he wouldn't have wasted 4 points of his ki. Could there be something wrong with this yin energy? He frowned in thought, then smiled wryly. His divine avatar had already replaced the yin source pearl as the core of this formation, so even if the yin energy was problematic, it still had to be absorbed. The 5 points of luck he possessed didn't give him any sense of danger. In fact, he vaguely felt it was an opportunity. Intrigued, Li Heng smiled. He visualized the great sun true form, using the supreme essence of the vast sun to protect his mind and prevent problems for himself and his clone, then calmly accepted the immense yin energy. Within this sealed space, the yin energy surged like a sea, its waves crashing towards the node containing his divine clone. The divine clone absorbed it all without hesitation. Suddenly, a glimmer of light flashed across the ocean of yin energy, instantly disappearing into the divine clone's body. The next moment, Li Heng sensed this light. The light moved within the divine clone, but merely emitted a strange fluctuation, without interfering with it, seemingly just ordinary, harmless light. However, Li Heng had already received feedback from his clone. The demonic nature of the yin demon primordial embryo, long dormant and suppressed by Li Heng, suddenly erupted, as if it had gained its own consciousness and was rebelling, trying to devour Li Heng. If nothing unexpected happens, this divine avatar will escape Li Heng's control, and his thought will be quickly corrupted by demonic energy, transforming into a monstrous and malevolent entity, reverting to the original form of the yin demon primordial embryo. Li Heng realized this and smiled slightly. What a clever scheme, using the almost indelible demonic nature of the yin demon primordial embryo as a tool. If he were an ordinary person, he would probably have already been devoured by now. He even sensed that the trajectory of this light was not ordinary. It seemed somewhat sinister and strange, as if it were some kind of cultivation technique, constantly deepening the demonic energy within. It was practically double insurance. Absolutely foolproof. As expected of a powerful and bizarre demon of this level, it truly went all out. Li Heng sighed inwardly, but it was meaningless. A demonic eruption, corruption, and backlash against the original body? Absolutely not. Under the suppression of his visualized great sun dharma image, what was the mere demonic energy of the yin demon primordial embryo? Even if the essence of the yin demon primordial embryo was special, it couldn't compare to the vast great sun. Under the suppression of the great sun dharma image, the demonic energy was as docile as chicks, daring not to resist Li Heng at all, even trembling slightly. The female demon thought she had successfully outmaneuvered Li Heng. In reality, it was completely useless. In fact, because of this outburst of demonic energy, it further tapped into the potential hidden in the yin demonic embryo, making the foundation of Li Heng's divine avatar more stable and further enhancing his strength. As the saying goes, corruption makes one 10 times stronger, while cleansing weakens one 3/10. Corruption is the outburst of demonic energy. But what good is the outburst of demonic energy? The great sun dharma image's suppression, apart from enhancing its strength, could not backfire on Li Heng at all. Unless the female demon's methods were fundamentally superior to the great sun, but that was impossible. If she had such methods, she wouldn't be sealed here. This was still a case of trying to steal a chicken but losing the rice instead. Li Heng thought about it and did not expose the truth, but instead played along with the female demon. His expression suddenly changed. What's going on? Why is my clone acting so uncontrollably? It's even resisting my will. This is impossible. What have you done, you weirdo? Li Heng roared at those around him, his face filled with shock. At this moment, he was like an Oscar-winning actor, a perennial golden statuette, which relieved the sealed female demon. She had been on tenterhooks just now. Her methods had been infiltrating that clone for a long time, and she had thought that it would instantly unleash the demonic nature of the yin demon embryo and backfire on her original self. But she hadn't expected this junior to be so powerful, and it had taken her this long to be able to suppress it. As expected of someone from a noble family, they possess such methods. The female demon's expression turned resentful again. If it weren't for the noble family's lack of martial ethics in attacking her with their strange methods, she wouldn't be sealed here. This junior's methods are truly remarkable. The first level of the demon summoning scripture, once activated, should unleash a demonic energy that even a peak true key realm cultivator couldn't suppress. This clone hasn't completely lost control yet. We need to add some fuel to the fire. The female demon murmured softly, and then another point of light shot out, containing the second level of the demon summoning scripture. Soon, Li Heng felt another point of light enter his divine clone, then merge with the first, emitting even stronger fluctuations, its trajectory becoming increasingly sinister. Its unleashed demonic energy grew stronger and stronger. He smiled inwardly. This was precisely the purpose of his act. To fleece this female demon. Did this female demon want to unleash the demonic energy of her yin demonic embryo? Then let her unleash it to her heart's content. Anyway, no matter how much it unleashed, it would only be suppressed by his great sun dharma form. The unleashing of demonic energy would only benefit him, not harm him. The higher the demonic energy, the stronger his clone would be. Just like a computer chip. The more a computer chip is overclocked, the stronger its performance. And the unleashing of demonic energy is like overclocking. There's a limit to chip overclocking, you never know. Overclocking might damage the entire chip. But under the suppression of Li Heng's great sun, the divine path avatar had no such risk. Now, Li Heng even sensed that the divine path avatar was visualizing the great sun and the vast earth even faster. This female demon was truly his lucky star. Li Heng thought to himself, not wanting to ruin this relationship. You weirdo, do you think I have no tricks up my sleeve? Suddenly, Li Heng revealed a furious expression. He immediately formed a hand seal in the void and imprinted it on the forehead of the divine path avatar, instantly calming it down. You weirdo, just you wait. Once I find my elders and find the means, I will definitely grind you to dust. With that, Li Heng leaped out of the hole, seemingly going to fetch reinforcements. The female demon watched Li Heng flee in disarray and smiled contemptuously. In the end, he was still a junior. How foolish was this decision? Did you really think I couldn't do anything to you just because you let your clone remain dormant? That demonic nature is rooted in the primordial embryo itself. She decided to infuse the entire demon summoning scripture into this yin demon primordial embryo, then continuously circulate it within its body, causing the yin demon primordial embryo to develop muscle memory and instinctively cultivate the demon summoning scripture. At that time, the demonic nature would completely erupt. She became excited. After the demonic nature erupted, this yin demon primordial embryo would become one of her own, and she could naturally break free from its seal, and incidentally, befriend a future peerless demon. This was simply a great opportunity for her. No sooner said than done. She directly gathered all her life's insights from the demon summoning scripture into a single point of light and infused it into her divine clone body. Chapter 63 Summoning Scripture. Li Heng was somewhat surprised. This female demon so readily admitted defeat? Did she think she was sealed away and offered no resistance? There must be a trick involved, he concluded. Anyone who reached this level would have the courage to fight to the death in dire straits. How could they simply give up and surrender? This female demon must be hiding some kind of trump card. Sure enough, he sensed yin energy attacking his divine avatar. Li Heng raised an eyebrow. Yin energy again? Wasn't this a case of trying to steal a chicken but losing the rice instead? What kind of yin energy couldn't his divine avatar, formed from the yin demon primordial embryo, absorb? Even if an entire ocean of yin energy were placed before him, given enough time, he could absorb it completely. This was precisely the heaven-defying power of the yin demon primordial embryo. Otherwise, he wouldn't have wasted 4 points of his ki. Could there be something wrong with this yin energy? He frowned in thought, then smiled wryly. His divine avatar had already replaced the yin source pearl as the core of this formation, so even if the yin energy was problematic, it still had to be absorbed. The 5 points of luck he possessed didn't give him any sense of danger. In fact, he vaguely felt it was an opportunity. Intrigued, Li Heng smiled. He visualized the great sun true form, using the supreme essence of the vast sun to protect his mind and prevent problems for himself and his clone, then calmly accepted the immense yin energy. Within this sealed space, the yin energy surged like a sea, its waves crashing towards the node containing his divine clone. The divine clone absorbed it all without hesitation. Suddenly, a glimmer of light flashed across the ocean of yin energy, instantly disappearing into the divine clone's body. The next moment, Li Heng sensed this light. The light moved within the divine clone, but merely emitted a strange fluctuation, without interfering with it, seemingly just ordinary, harmless light. However, Li Heng had already received feedback from his clone. The demonic nature of the yin demon primordial embryo, long dormant and suppressed by Li Heng, suddenly erupted, as if it had gained its own consciousness and was rebelling, trying to devour Li Heng. If nothing unexpected happens, this divine avatar will escape Li Heng's control, and his thought will be quickly corrupted by demonic energy, transforming into a monstrous and malevolent entity, reverting to the original form of the yin demon primordial embryo. Li Heng realized this and smiled slightly. What a clever scheme, using the almost indelible demonic nature of the yin demon primordial embryo as a tool. If he were an ordinary person, he would probably have already been devoured by now. He even sensed that the trajectory of this light was not ordinary. It seemed somewhat sinister and strange, as if it were some kind of cultivation technique, constantly deepening the demonic energy within. It was practically double insurance. Absolutely foolproof. As expected of a powerful and bizarre demon of this level, it truly went all out. Li Heng sighed inwardly, but it was meaningless. A demonic eruption, corruption, and backlash against the original body? Absolutely not. Under the suppression of his visualized great sun dharma image, what was the mere demonic energy of the yin demon primordial embryo? Even if the essence of the yin demon primordial embryo was special, it couldn't compare to the vast great sun. Under the suppression of the great sun dharma image, the demonic energy was as docile as chicks, daring not to resist Li Heng at all, even trembling slightly. The female demon thought she had successfully outmaneuvered Li Heng. In reality, it was completely useless. In fact, because of this outburst of demonic energy, it further tapped into the potential hidden in the yin demonic embryo, making the foundation of Li Heng's divine avatar more stable and further enhancing his strength. As the saying goes, corruption makes one 10 times stronger, while cleansing weakens one 3/10. Corruption is the outburst of demonic energy. But what good is the outburst of demonic energy? The great sun dharma image's suppression, apart from enhancing its strength, could not backfire on Li Heng at all. Unless the female demon's methods were fundamentally superior to the great sun, but that was impossible. If she had such methods, she wouldn't be sealed here. This was still a case of trying to steal a chicken but losing the rice instead. Li Heng thought about it and did not expose the truth, but instead played along with the female demon. His expression suddenly changed. What's going on? Why is my clone acting so uncontrollably? It's even resisting my will. This is impossible. What have you done, you weirdo? Li Heng roared at those around him, his face filled with shock. At this moment, he was like an Oscar-winning actor, a perennial golden statuette, which relieved the sealed female demon. She had been on tenterhooks just now. Her methods had been infiltrating that clone for a long time, and she had thought that it would instantly unleash the demonic nature of the yin demon embryo and backfire on her original self. But she hadn't expected this junior to be so powerful, and it had taken her this long to be able to suppress it. As expected of someone from a noble family, they possess such methods. The female demon's expression turned resentful again. If it weren't for the noble family's lack of martial ethics in attacking her with their strange methods, she wouldn't be sealed here. This junior's methods are truly remarkable. The first level of the demon summoning scripture, once activated, should unleash a demonic energy that even a peak true key realm cultivator couldn't suppress. This clone hasn't completely lost control yet. We need to add some fuel to the fire. The female demon murmured softly, and then another point of light shot out, containing the second level of the demon summoning scripture. Soon, Li Heng felt another point of light enter his divine clone, then merge with the first, emitting even stronger fluctuations, its trajectory becoming increasingly sinister. Its unleashed demonic energy grew stronger and stronger. He smiled inwardly. This was precisely the purpose of his act. To fleece this female demon. Did this female demon want to unleash the demonic energy of her yin demonic embryo? Then let her unleash it to her heart's content. Anyway, no matter how much it unleashed, it would only be suppressed by his great sun dharma form. The unleashing of demonic energy would only benefit him, not harm him. The higher the demonic energy, the stronger his clone would be. Just like a computer chip. The more a computer chip is overclocked, the stronger its performance. And the unleashing of demonic energy is like overclocking. There's a limit to chip overclocking, you never know. Overclocking might damage the entire chip. But under the suppression of Li Heng's great sun, the divine path avatar had no such risk. Now, Li Heng even sensed that the divine path avatar was visualizing the great sun and the vast earth even faster. This female demon was truly his lucky star. Li Heng thought to himself, not wanting to ruin this relationship. You weirdo, do you think I have no tricks up my sleeve? Suddenly, Li Heng revealed a furious expression. He immediately formed a hand seal in the void and imprinted it on the forehead of the divine path avatar, instantly calming it down. You weirdo, just you wait. Once I find my elders and find the means, I will definitely grind you to dust. With that, Li Heng leaped out of the hole, seemingly going to fetch reinforcements. The female demon watched Li Heng flee in disarray and smiled contemptuously. In the end, he was still a junior. How foolish was this decision? Did you really think I couldn't do anything to you just because you let your clone remain dormant? That demonic nature is rooted in the primordial embryo itself. She decided to infuse the entire demon summoning scripture into this yin demon primordial embryo, then continuously circulate it within its body, causing the yin demon primordial embryo to develop muscle memory and instinctively cultivate the demon summoning scripture. At that time, the demonic nature would completely erupt. She became excited. After the demonic nature erupted, this yin demon primordial embryo would become one of her own, and she could naturally break free from its seal, and incidentally, befriend a future peerless demon. This was simply a great opportunity for her. No sooner said than done. She directly gathered all her life's insights from the demon summoning scripture into a single point of light and infused it into her divine clone body. Chapter 65 The Silver That Couldn't Be Taken by Death. These wontons were large, round meat wontons, with meat filling making up 80% and dough 20%. They were incredibly delicious, leaving a lingering fragrance on the lips and teeth, and providing immense satisfaction. Unlike those small wontons, which practically had no meat filling, the braised meat was similar to the braised beef Li Heng had in his previous life. However, it wasn't a cold dish, but steaming hot, with delicate fibers and occasional bits of tendon for added texture. The aroma of the sauce and the meat blended together perfectly, making it very appetizing. Li Heng had been through so much, expending a lot of energy, and now he was thoroughly enjoying the meal. After finishing, he even packed a few portions of braised meat to take home, eating as he walked. After all, on the path of martial arts, food was paramount. He strolled leisurely until he finally returned to the Demon Extermination Division's headquarters. He kicked open the already crumbling gate, making it even more dilapidated. Entering the courtyard, he saw Su Liang sitting on a stool, his face full of worry. "My lord, you're finally back." Su Liang was startled to see Li Heng appear, then overjoyed, and immediately stood up, excitedly saying, "Quiet down, all that shouting." Li Heng frowned and said calmly, Yes, my lord, it's good that you're back." Su Liang immediately lowered his voice, fawning and flattering. "My lord, what exactly happened the night before last? I slept very soundly that night and didn't notice anything. But I heard people at the gathering say it was a divine warning. But Su Liang, I'm not stupid, how could that be?" Su Liang was very confident. Li Heng glanced at Su Liang, his expression somewhat strange. He really hadn't expected that Su Liang would actually follow his orders, not going out after dark, and even sleeping so soundly. "Nothing, just the ghost domain enveloping the Three Mountains gathering. It's nothing to mention," he said casually. "I see, just the ghost domain enveloping the Three Mountains gathering, my lord, what did you just say?" "The ghost domain, enveloping the Three Mountains gathering." Seeing Li Heng's relaxed expression, Su Liang thought it was just a small matter. But when he heard Li Heng's words clearly, he was immediately stunned, thinking he was hallucinating. "It's just what you think," Li Heng said calmly, not wanting to repeat himself. "Hiss." Su Liang gasped. He was, after all, a member of the Demon Extermination Division, and knew the significance of this matter. A ghost domain was not something an ordinary ghost could possess. His uncle had once boasted about slaying a ghost with a ghost domain. He would brag about it every time he drank. He said how brave he was, how terrifying the ghost was, and how rare the ghost domain was. Moreover, this ghost domain was large enough to cover the Three Mountains gathering, so one could imagine how terrifying that ghost was. This level of ghost was comparable to a god, right? "Sir, may I ask if the matter is resolved?" Suppressing the urge to run away from the Three Mountains gathering at any moment, Su Liang asked cautiously. "Resolved?" Su Liang was delighted to hear this. "Not resolved?" Su Liang's face stiffened upon hearing this. Seeing Su Liang's expression, Li Heng shook his head. "All right, this isn't something you can worry about. Just know that you're safe for now, but whether you'll be safe in the future, I don't know." With that, Li Heng went back inside, packed his things, and prepared to return to Bian City. When he came out, Su Liang was still in a daze. Li Heng ignored him and walked straight out the door. "My lord, where are you going?" Suddenly, Su Liang finally came to his senses and, seeing Li Heng leaving again, hurriedly shouted, "Back to Begin City to report." "Oh, right, your uncle Su Yinghun told you not to gamble anymore. Think it over carefully." With that lazy remark, Li Heng left. On the official road leading to Begin City, the young Taoist and the members of the aristocratic families gradually approached the Three Mountains gathering. They also saw the travelers who, because the ghost domain shrouded the Three Mountains gathering, were planning to leave their homes. The young man from the leading aristocratic family was somewhat puzzled. Had the situation in Begin City deteriorated to this extent? So many peasants actually chose to flee, leaving their homes and families? Little easy. A voice rang out, and the leading young man from the aristocratic family immediately became respectful, like a lackey of a tyrant, rushing to the young Taoist's side. "What are your orders, junior uncle? Go and ask him what happened here that made so many people choose to leave their homes." The young Taoist's eyelids drooped, his eyes half open, half closed, looking as if he hadn't woken up properly, his tone lazy and indifferent. "Yes, junior uncle." The young man replied respectfully, then withdrew. He glanced around casually, found an unfortunate soul, and walked over. Those poor people who had left their homes, with their families in tow, had been avoiding the aristocratic group from afar, fearing any contact. But no matter how much they tried to hide, they couldn't escape. Most people moved even further away, looking with pity at the unfortunate soul chosen by the young man. Hopefully, he won't get beaten to death by these rich young masters. This unlucky fellow is an honest, middle-aged man. He's all alone, looking like a middle-aged bachelor who still can't find a wife. "I'm asking you, what happened in Begin City?" the young man from a noble family said calmly. If it weren't for his junior uncle's orders, he wouldn't dare disobey, otherwise, he wouldn't bother talking to these peasants. He's a born nobleman, not from the same world as these peasants. I. The middle-aged man panicked a little. After all, the young man in front of him was incredibly aristocratic and imposing. He even felt like an ant under the man's feet. The young man frowned, suppressing his aura. A peasant is a peasant. He can't even withstand this kind of pressure. "Speak quickly, and I'll give you 10 taels of silver." The young man waved his hand, somewhat impatiently. The middle-aged man finally calmed down. "No, there's a problem in Begin City." The man swallowed hard and continued. "Something went wrong at the Three Mountains gathering. The night before last, everyone fell into deep sleep. Even those walking on the streets collapsed to the ground, only to be suddenly awakened later. Some say it's divine punishment, a warning. So I dared not stay there." "Fallen into deep sleep?" The young man raised an eyebrow. "Interesting." He casually tossed a 10-tael silver coin away from the peasant whose head had been smashed open by the coin, his brains splattering out, and went back to report. He had indeed promised 10 taels of silver. But unfortunately, the peasant didn't live to receive it. The young man returned to the young Taoist boy. Reporting to junior uncle, "It's about the Three Mountains gathering." He told the young Taoist boy everything he had learned, not daring to conceal anything. Chapter 66. You will never die today. The Three Mountains gathering? A state of unconsciousness? A divine warning? The young Taoist was startled. It was that place. Something seemed amiss. 20 years ago, he had experienced that battle and knew what kind of being was sealed there. Even now, though his cultivation was greater than before, and that being's strength had been greatly reduced after being sealed, he wasn't necessarily capable of defeating it. Could it cause everyone at the gathering to fall into a deep sleep? Was that being about to break free? Was the so-called unconsciousness actually caused by the shroud of the ghost realm? He frowned, pondering the situation. No, he had to go see. If that being really broke free, he would have to reassess the situation. The young Taoist looked distressed. He had thought it would be an easy task, but unexpectedly, this had happened. Truly, the ways of heaven were unpredictable, changing in an instant. "Let's go, speed up, let's go see the gathering." He casually uttered these words. He slapped his little donkey, and in an instant, the donkey charged forward like lightning, a shooting star. This speed. Even a thoroughbred horse couldn't match it. The young nobleman looked on with envy. No wonder it was hailed as a first-class exotic beast, the dragon donkey, possessing a trace of dragon blood. If his father hadn't objected, he would have wanted to get one to ride. Hurry up, don't keep our junior uncle waiting. The young nobleman returned to his own prized horse and urged the other young nobleman behind him to hurry. The horses galloped, dust billowing, and quickly disappeared from sight. The poor souls who had left their homes finally breathed a sigh of relief. But then their gazes turned to the 10 taels of silver that had killed the middle-aged man, their faces filled with greed. Clearly, this was going to be a fierce battle. The group quickly arrived at the Three Mountains gathering. The young Taoist didn't stop, heading directly towards Jing'an village. The young noblemen were also quite helpless, they hadn't even had a chance to enjoy themselves yet. But they couldn't fight City Hall. Before setting off, their elders had instructed them to obey their junior uncle's orders, and they had no choice but to follow. The horses' hooves thundered through the streets. If the gathering of people from the Three Mountains hadn't been reduced to a few scattered individuals, making it quite quiet, their reckless charge would likely have trampled several people to death before speeding away. But there was nothing they could do, they were born into nobility. A family born with extraordinary bloodlines. Passing through the Three Mountains gathering, they arrived in the desolate wilderness. The youth faced a problem, the path was too narrow and overgrown with weeds, completely unsuitable for horseback riding. After all, these horses weren't mythical beasts like dragon donkeys. The young Taoist didn't wait for them, continuing to gallop on his donkey. The young nobles, left with no other choice, had to abandon their prized horses and, like peasants, raced through the dense forests and mountain paths, occasionally complaining about their soiled clothes. Soon, after a full-speed run, they arrived at Jing'an village, also known as An village. Just then, the old village chief stood at the crossroads of Jing village, gazing intently in the direction of the village, lost in thought. This sight immediately stopped the young Taoist boy who had been running all the way. He was also puzzled. Logically speaking, if that guy had broken free of the seal or had the ability to interfere with the mortal world, this village should no longer exist. But in his perception, this village was real, not some kind of ghost village. The old man in front of him was not a ghost, but a living person. This made him curious. Old man, I am honored. May I ask what happened in that direction? He pointed in the direction of Jing village. The young Taoist boy spoke politely. This stop finally allowed the young nobleman behind to catch up, but they were all panting heavily. The dragon donkey was too fast, and they could only try their best to keep up. You are. The old man came back to his senses, looked at the young Taoist boy and the extremely noble young men, and was stunned for a moment. May I ask if anyone has been here? The young Taoist continued. He wasn't stupid. This village was so close to the ceiling point, yet it hadn't suffered, while the entire village had been slaughtered. This meant that the guy might not have completely broken the seal. Or perhaps, someone had come to deal with the matter and temporarily suppressed it. This could also explain why no one had died at the Three Mountains gathering. The old man shuddered at the mention of this. He was somewhat troubled. Should he tell these people about his benefactor? But based on his experience judging people, this group was no pushover. The young man behind him was full of arrogance, and although the young Taoist in front of him was kind, he still felt a little awkward. Telling him rashly might implicate his benefactor. After Li Heng left, he thought for a long time, no longer certain whether this person was human or God, but defining him as his benefactor, someone who had saved his life. He knew his physical condition, he barely had time left. But after being patted by his benefactor, he was no longer out of breath, his legs felt weak, and he felt full of energy. It was as if he had returned to 10 years ago. Old man, your junior uncle is asking you a question, answer quickly. A young man from a prominent family said impatiently. This. I don't know. The old man looked confused and shook his head. The young Taoist frowned, he could easily see through the old man's lie. Someone had definitely been here. Old man, you mustn't defy the heavenly way. The young Taoist spoke calmly. The old man swallowed hard. What heavenly way? What new term was this? However, he would absolutely not reveal the information of his benefactor. Even if he died today, so be it. Without his benefactor, he wouldn't have lived long anyway. It was just a pity about his chickens. All right. The heavenly way is constant. Let me calculate whether you will die soon, old man. The young Taoist immediately stretched out his fingers to calculate, but the next moment he frowned, changed to another method, then frowned again, and changed to another method. Finally, as he calculated, he felt a little overwhelmed. What was going on? Was this old man so lucky? Why was there no possibility of the old man's death in his calculations? Finally, there was a subtle warning not to investigate further. The young Taoist remained silent, then rode off on his donkey. The young noble families were puzzled. Junior uncle is too strange, just leaving like that? They shook their heads and could only follow. Inside the sealed space, the female demon was overjoyed. That divine avatar finally showed signs of demonic transformation, even subtly trying to ingratiate itself with her. Suddenly, she frowned. She sensed a powerful aura approaching. She recognized it clearly, the aura of a noble family. Had this junior really called his elders? The female demon's expression darkened. No, she absolutely couldn't let them succeed. She had invested everything in this yin demon embryo. She couldn't let it all go to waste. But she was currently suppressed and couldn't act. Unless she could persuade this divine avatar, or rather, the yin demon's primordial embryo, to leave a crack. She thought for a moment. A thought was transmitted to her divine avatar. Meanwhile, on their way back to Yin City, Heng frowned. He had received a message from his divine avatar. What kind of trouble was this female demon up to now? Chapter 67 The Nameless Demon. He carefully sensed the information again. Heng was taken aback. This female demon actually wanted her clone to relax and let her out? He decisively refused. He had finally managed to reseal this female demon, preventing her from forcibly interfering in the world, at least preventing the three mountains gathering from being shrouded in the ghost realm. How could he so easily let her out? Inside the sealing formation, the female demon's heart sank. Her message had gone unanswered. Had she been rejected by this clone? It seemed she was still too impatient. She frowned, thinking. It seemed she needed to explain the consequences to this yin demon primordial embryo, and then offer some benefits. Perhaps a ball of light would fly out, explaining her reasons for doing so, and incidentally containing a few cultivation methods, hoping for leniency. Heng sensed another message. He looked surprised. It turned out that a powerful family had attacked, causing this female demon to panic. However, this female demon was quite generous, casually gifting several cultivation aids. Out of consideration for these methods, Heng, would grant her a slight favor and open a tiny crack in the path. Heng smiled lightly and gave an order to his divine avatar. Regardless of whether the aristocratic families were righteous or evil, they were all enemies of the supernatural. His yin demon primordial embryo, in a sense, was also a kind of supernatural entity. If those aristocratic families found the yin demon primordial embryo, they would most likely destroy it, which Heng could not accept. He could only let the female demon appear briefly. He had no intention of betraying his teammates. Were the aristocratic families teammates? Heng didn't think so. From the information he had gathered along the way, and from the so-called second young master, the aristocratic families were not trustworthy. He felt that the so-called aristocratic families were more like supernatural entities siding with humanity. The young Taoist had already arrived at the ruins of Jing village. He frowned. Someone had indeed been here. Traces of a great battle and remnants of yin energy remained. However, did that person cultivate the path of ultimate yin and strength? It felt like this place had been purified. Could it be those bold monks from Buddhism? But Buddhism isn't known for using fire. He casually picked up a charred branch from the ground, his fingers slightly pinching it, as if he could still feel the terrifying heat emanating from it. Could it be the Ma family? Or perhaps the Bai family? He pondered to himself. At this moment, the young men from the aristocratic families behind him caught up, panting heavily. They looked at Jing village, their faces filled with confusion. Why had they stopped again? Was this their destination? But the yin energy here wasn't heavy, it even had an aura of righteousness. Although some yin energy remained, it was negligible. It was as if a painting had been forcibly erased, leaving a blank sheet of paper. And this yin energy was the trace left on the blank paper that hadn't been erased forcefully. It's a bit like the traces after a great battle. Interesting. Who exactly is this person? The young Taoist's expression was subtle. He began to try to divine, intending to see who this person was. He didn't need to know for sure, but he also wanted to see which faction was moving faster than their aristocratic families. The next moment, he fell silent. The result of his divination was actually himself. Looking at his fingers, a wisp of flame rose from them. The flame was blue, and its terrifying temperature distorted the surrounding air, as if space itself were warped. With a flick of his finger, the flame flew out, smashing a dilapidated house and creating a crater about 5 zang in front of him, the soil scorched black and emitting a burned smell. The young Taoist was furious. What was going on? Could it be that he was sleepwalking and ended up here suppressing a demon? He felt a little tired and said nothing. He simply continued riding his little donkey forward. These young noble families were dumbfounded again. They actually wanted to keep going? Junior uncle, why are you stopping and starting? Stop torturing us. Can't you just go all the way to the end? They complained inwardly but dared not speak out. Inside the ceiling formation, the female demon's eyes lit up, her face showing joy. She had succeeded. This yin demon primordial embryo had agreed to open a sliver of space for her to manifest her power and block the powerful enemy. She frowned again, sensing the young Taoist's aura drawing ever closer. Then she sneered, her beautiful face as cold as ice, seemingly mocking him. Although she had been sealed for a long time, even losing half her strength, she was still not someone a mere beginner in the innate realm could humiliate. To send only a beginner? The aristocratic families had truly lost their minds. The female demon chuckled and began to manifest. Passing through Jing village, halfway there, the young Taoist suddenly stopped, his expression troubled. I almost fell into your trap. If I had taken another step, I would have entered your demonic domain, at your mercy. Indeed, you are still so strong. You agree, demon? Golden light instantly emanated from his body, protecting him. Demon? How many years have passed, and your aristocratic families have already forgotten my name? Her voice languid, the female demon's figure manifested in the world, a smile playing on her lips. I didn't want to either, the young Taoist said, still troubled. But fairy, you've fallen into demonic possession. According to the rules, those who fall into demonic possession have no surname or name, they are all evil spirits and monsters, and everyone has the right to kill them. I had no choice. The young Taoist boy said innocently. Tisk, I didn't expect to hear the word fairy again. However, why do you look so familiar? Did I see you in that battle 20 years ago? But weren't they all old men and some middle-aged bald men back then? The female demon's long, white jade-like fingers supported her chin as she frowned, pondering, and muttered to herself. The young Taoist boy's lips twitched upon hearing this. What a middle-aged bald man. He was enveloped in golden light and slowly retreated. The strange domain was enveloping him, and to avoid falling into its clutches and being slaughtered, he could only retreat. Evil spirit, how exactly did you break free of the seal? Although he was at a disadvantage, the young Taoist boy still asked seriously. That's naturally because your formation was not strong enough. The female demon smiled and slowly walked forward. The young Taoist boy remained expressionless and slowly retreated. You can't escape the seal of the reverse 8 trigrams, he said decisively. The southern fire position and that yin source pearl are constantly absorbing your yin energy, so there's no way you can escape. The female demon chuckled, then it's just as you thought. Sure enough, there's a problem with that yin source pearl. Only if the yin source pearl, which is responsible for weakening your strength, malfunctions could it allow you to break the seal. That demon, oh no, fairy, goodbye. Having obtained the information he wanted, the little Taoist turned and ran. He thought the people who came before had already solved the problem, but now this demon could still manifest in the world? This greatly surprised him, and he had no choice but to run. You can't escape. The female demon waved her hand, and the ghost domain expanded a second time. Chapter 68 Little Yellow Book. Back on the waterway to Bian City, Heng regained his composure. The female demon and the member of that aristocratic family were already fighting, and it seemed there was no clear winner for the time being. He didn't bother to pay attention to it, after all, it wasn't him fighting to the death. He stared at the river beneath his feet. Wisps of yin energy emanated from the water, giving it a cool feel even under the bright daylight. This was not a good sign, Heng frowned. Although water is inherently yin, this was broad daylight, a time when yang energy was at its peak. If it could emit yin energy during the day, what would it be like at night? Would it be a ghostly realm locking the river, devouring lives? This showed just how big the commotion Meng Lingayan had mentioned was. Heng couldn't help but sigh, the world was on the verge of collapse, could anyone step in to save it? He had his doubts. After all, the incompetence of the dynasty and the government already hinted at something. He shook his head, dismissing these thoughts. For now, he needed to take care of himself. His strength was far from enough to save the world, he could only strive for self-preservation. Time flew by, and he traveled upstream, Finally, at noon, Heng successfully spotted the outline of Begin City. He docked, disembarked, and returned to Begin City. The streets were bustling with people, the usual laughter and chatter were mostly gone, replaced by a somber silence, and an atmosphere of tension permeated the air. Heng raised an eyebrow, somewhat surprised. Had the situation in Begin City become so tense in just a few days? He lost his appetite for lunch. He headed straight for the inner city, intending to return directly to the Demon Extermination Bureau and retrieve Su Yinghun's cultivation technique for the soul. Upon reaching the inner city gate, Heng was even more astonished. The guards had been completely replaced, their physiques were stronger, and their auras more powerful. The leading guard, in particular, possessed a blood and key as if from a furnace, indicating he was at the blood exchange realm. Heng's expression turned grave. Had the inner city's defenses reached this level? It seemed something truly serious had happened in Begin City. No wonder the Three Mountains gathering was practically deserted, they were probably too busy. He brandished his demon exorcist token, intending to enter the inner city. At that moment, he was stopped by the head guard. "Wait, please come and have your image reflected here, demon exorcist." The head guard was burly and had a menacing look on his face. He was probably a butcher. He pointed to a mirror nearby and spoke very politely. Heng raised an eyebrow and walked to the mirror. His image was immediately reflected in the mirror. The guard glanced at it and breathed a sigh of relief. "All right, please come in, demon exorcist." He gestured for him to enter. Heng nodded, said nothing, and entered the inner city. Now, even entering the inner city required a demon-revealing mirror? He shook his head, feeling an increasing sense of impending doom. He quickened his pace and returned to the Demon Exorcist Division. After thinking for a while, he decided to go to the General Affairs Division. Su Yinghun had once said that he could obtain the cultivation manual for the Divine Soul with his token. So, the cultivation techniques should be kept in the General Affairs Department. This is a long-standing practice of the Demon Extermination Department. The Demon Extermination Department has always had a high casualty rate. A mission might send someone out and they might never return. Therefore, to avoid the extinction of their lineage, or to leave something for their loved ones, they would always entrust some of their belongings to the General Affairs Department. If it is confirmed that the Demon Extermination Envoy is dead and no one claims them for a long time, those entrusted items, if valuable, will be confiscated and become rewards for other Demon Extermination Envoys. According to rumor, the library contains many cultivation techniques, which are relics of some Demon Extermination Envoys. This can be considered their trace left in the world. At this moment, at the Three Mountains gathering, in Jing village, the young Taoist boy was so angry that he vomited blood. "Demon, why do you have to force me like this? Didn't I already promise that I would never bother you again?" the young Taoist boy roared. He had finally been caught off guard. In the second expansion of the Ghost Domain, he couldn't react in time and was directly trapped in the Ghost Domain. The Ghost Domain is essentially the home ground of the supernatural. The stronger the supernatural power, the more things one can accomplish within the ghost realm, even distorting reality. Ordinary minor demons, even with a ghost realm, can only teleport at most. But this female demon's ghost realm truly distorts reality. The surrounding space pressed down on the young Taoist. "I could easily crush you and kill you here, so why should I acknowledge your promise? As a member of a noble family, are your words so naive?" The female demon's figure was invisible, but her smiling words resounded throughout the ghost realm, echoing in the young Taoist's ears with penetrating power, like a demonic voice piercing his brain. "I admit you are strong. However, it's impossible to spare my life. Besides, do you really think I can't see through your true strength? You haven't fully broken the seal," the young Taoist said coldly. "So what? I haven't fully broken the seal, but I'll still beat you to pulp. That's the difference between us." The female demon spoke calmly. That yin demonic embryo was far too important, concerning his future plans. If possible, she would absolutely not let this aristocratic family member leave this place. What if this person went back and brought reinforcements? She would truly have a hard time dealing with him. Outside the ghost realm, the group of aristocratic youths watched from afar, neither daring to offer assistance nor daring to flee directly. They weren't fools, they knew that this level of combat was beyond their control. They also knew that it would be far too easy for beings of this level to kill them. They might just run away and their heads would roll. So, They simply became spectators. "Don't force me to use my true strength, you'll regret it," the young Taoist boy threatened grimly. "Tisk, do you really think I don't know your background? It's nothing more than some dirty rituals among aristocratic families. Let me think, could it be the resurrection ceremony? Some members of aristocratic families, knowing they have no hope of breaking through, choose to reverse their aging process, re-nurturing their bloodline and potential. No wonder I feel like I've seen you before. I suppose you're some old guy from 20 years ago. It's truly a pity you still have to perish here." The female demon's words gradually turned cold, unleashing her power. The young Taoist's expression darkened, and he used his bloodline power. "Demon, you ruined my 20 years of arduous cultivation, you will pay the price. With my royal bloodline, I grant divine pardon." At this moment, in the Exorcism Division, in the General Affairs Department, Li Heng took out Su Yinghun's token and handed it to a staff member. After the staff member confirmed it, they handed him a box containing Su Yinghun's belongings. Leaving the General Affairs Department, he went to a secluded corner and opened it. An ordinary-looking book, with a yellow cover but very fine texture, bound with a thin rope, appeared before his eyes. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Pure Yang Soul Refining Secret Technique. The 6 large, powerful characters of Pure Yang Soul Refining Secret Technique caught Li Heng's eye. Pure Yang? He raised an eyebrow. What a grand title. He wondered if the content lived up to the name. He casually flipped through it, quickly skimming the pages, and his eyes lit up. This secret technique was truly extraordinary. The book explained that the world is divided into yin and yang, and the soul is no exception, inherently yin. However, by using the pure yang method to shed one's yin nature, one can achieve a soul of supreme yang and strength. This soul can enter and exit the heavens, fly through the sky and escape the earth, and is utterly unafraid of even thunderbolts, having lost the weaknesses of yin souls such as fear of thunder and light. No wonder Su Yinghun's soul could withstand the true fire of the sun for so long. Now he understood. He recalled the Taoist teachings of his previous life. Yin and yang spirits? It seemed this was the secret method for cultivating the yang spirit. But, in Taoism, the yang spirit should be considered a very high achievement, right? Or was it merely a lower version of the yang spirit? If so, it would truly suit him. Although this secret technique states that to cultivate a pure yang soul, one must find a pure yang object to nurture and temper the soul, imbuing it with pure yang essence, he doesn't need to search for one. The true solar fire possessed by the great sun Dharma image he visualizes is the most yang in the world, with extremely high essence, so there's no need to find other pure yang objects. It's just a bit unsuitable for the yin demon primordial embryo. Li Heng thought for a moment. The yin demon primordial embryo already has the cultivation method taught by that female demon, so he doesn't need to worry about it. He brought up the data panel and activated the appraisal function. Although this cultivation method seems very suitable for him, it's better to be cautious and appraise it first. Otherwise, if there are any pitfalls in this cultivation method, he won't be able to regret it later. Pure Yang Soul Refining Secret Technique, a method of transforming yin into yang, which allows one's own soul to complete its essential evolution, achieving a soul of supreme yang and supreme strength, immune to external evils and demons. From one of the 3,000 Taoist scriptures, a small book, level unknown. Li Heng was somewhat surprised. The 3,000 Taoist scriptures? This secret technique seems to have a powerful origin. Even his appraisal function couldn't determine its specific level. This was understandable, as the appraisal function only used 10 points of source energy, so it wasn't surprising it couldn't identify anything. Unless he expended more source energy to upgrade, he decided there was no need to upgrade for now. It was just that he couldn't identify the level. As long as no specific information was missing, there was no need. Although he had 200 points of source energy, he still needed to keep some for emergencies and upgrade the Great Sun Dharma form. So he had to be frugal and not spend recklessly. Li Heng sighed. He was still poor. He put the technique back in the box. Although this corner was secluded, someone could easily break in. He should return to his residence first. Leaving the General Affairs Department, halfway there, Li Heng raised an eyebrow and encountered an acquaintance. The acquaintance also saw Li Heng and looked surprised, even shocked. He rubbed his eyes, finally confirming he wasn't mistaken. Li Heng, you're actually alive. The one who spoke was none other than Wang Donglei, the lowly clerk from the Hall of Merit, who was just one word away from becoming a supreme grandmaster, capable of shattering the void. Li Heng's face darkened. How much did this person want him dead? Seeing Li Heng's expression, Wang Donglei quickly explained, "Oh, no. I was just a little excited and misspoke. I'm just really shocked that you could actually come back." Li Heng's face remained dark. Was there any difference between these words and his previous ones? "Judging from your reaction, have I caused you some serious trouble?" he said calmly, somewhat speechless. "Don't you know? The ghost domain shrouded the three mountains gathering. Tisk, how powerful must that ghost domain be? Probably the legendary innate level. And yet you were able to return from it, what can I say?" Wang Donglei couldn't help but shake his head, deeply moved. "What, you know my whereabouts?" Li Heng frowned. He had been picked up directly from Meng Lingayan for his trip to the Three Mountains Gathering, not registered with the Hall of Merit. Logically, Wang Donglei shouldn't know. "I didn't know at first, but the director keeps bringing it up. He keeps saying it's a pity, we shouldn't have sent you to such a dangerous place," Wang Donglei said, shaking his head. Li Heng nodded, realizing that was the case. But was this matter really that big of a commotion? No one died at the Three Mountains Gathering, yet the Demon Extermination Bureau thought he was dead? Or, didn't you send anyone to the Three Mountains Gathering? He asked casually. Wang Donglei shook his head. "I don't know about that, but there haven't been any personnel changes lately." Li Heng nodded, just as he expected. The dynasty, the government, and even the Demon Extermination Bureau were basically just sitting around doing nothing. The Demon Extermination Bureau's exorcisms were for the sake of stability, sacrificing a few to save the majority. Perhaps the Three Mountains Gathering was used as a sacrifice. He couldn't help but shake his head with some emotion. Human lives really are just numbers. This also indirectly shows the dire situation in this world. The Demon Extermination Bureau was merely maintaining stability, but even so, the mortality rate remained high. "I won't say much more. Just know you're back alive. By the way, if you have time, you should still go see the director and let him know you're safe. He values you quite a bit." Wang Donglei shook his head and turned away from Li Heng. After walking a distance, Wang Donglei breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed Li Heng hadn't been possessed by a demon and hadn't attacked him. I wonder if this kid will go see the director. Maybe I should inform the director first. The director should be able to confirm again. It wasn't that he didn't trust him, it was just a professional habit. He had seen demon hunters return as strange, malevolent beings more than once. Especially someone like Li Heng, who hadn't returned to the Hall of Merit to hand over his mission, hadn't been baptized by the Great Array within, and hadn't been monitored. That was even more dangerous. Watching Wang Donglei leave, Li Heng chuckled. He was indeed a seasoned veteran. After all this time, he still had some vigilance. Li Heng suspected that if his actions had been any more dangerous, he would have run away without looking back. But, should he see the old man first? Li Heng pondered deeply. The atmosphere was tense, like a storm brewing. To avoid being caught in the crossfire, he needed to understand what was happening in Bian City. He had a palpable sense of unease. Thinking this, he slightly changed his route, walking on the solid bluestone bricks towards Meng Lingayan's residence. He also thought of that unlucky fellow, Meng Hao. So many days had passed, had he recovered? At the Three Mountains Gathering in Jing Village, the great demoness's expression was grave. This young Taoist was actually from the Wang family. This so-called divine power was incredibly difficult to deal with. He had directly deified the nearby land and trees, turning them into gods to fight her. He had almost sealed off the ghost realm. "If you have divine power, why did you go and cultivate the Dao?" she cursed inwardly, feeling trapped. Chapter 70 Integration of Taoism and Buddhism. The young Taoist's heart was bleeding. 20 years ago, he had performed a resurrection ritual, simultaneously sealing his royal bloodline power, turning it into a hidden foundation. Only after the ritual would his bloodline be released. At that time, with his cultivation and bloodline united, he might be able to glimpse the profound and mysterious realm beyond the innate. But now, he had prematurely used his bloodline, rendering his 20 years of arduous cultivation futile. How could he accept this? He wanted nothing more than to kill this female demon instantly. However, reason told him he must retreat first, so he could make further plans and perhaps salvage the situation. Right now, neither of us can defeat the other, the young Taoist said coldly. How about we negotiate a condition? The female demon raised an eyebrow, inwardly relieved. It seemed that this member of the aristocratic family had finally given in and spoken first. Otherwise, she would have been the one to give in sooner. The Great Formation's seal had only just cracked open. It was simply insufficient to support this battle between two powerful forces. However, a sudden thought struck her. This was a golden opportunity to extort money from this powerful family, especially one like the Wang family, which possessed divine power. She planned to extort some divine power from them. Of course, she wouldn't need it. Her true purpose was still for the Yin demon primordial embryo, Li Heng's divine avatar. Initially, she only wanted to activate its demonic nature, suppressing or even eroding the divine aspect of the Yin demon primordial embryo, transforming it back into a peerless, monstrous demon. But then she considered it. For a Yin demon primordial embryo to cultivate the divine path was incredibly rare, almost impossible, a direct challenge to her worldview. Her intuition told her that if it succeeded, the fusion of two opposing forces might create a peerless evil god, one that even this world wouldn't reject. To her, this was an incredible opportunity. Therefore, she planned to obtain the Wang family's divine power to nourish the Yin demon primordial embryo, allowing it to activate its demonic nature while simultaneously cultivating the divine path. As long as the demonic side can outweigh the divine side, then the Yin demon primordial embryo will always be one of us. The great demoness thought, her eyes lighting up, her excitement growing. This tactic was truly feasible. A fine bargaining tactic. If you can offer a promise that moves me, I might let you go. The great demoness smiled, seemingly still at her peak. Then what do you want? The young Taoist asked calmly. He agreed so readily mainly because this place wasn't far from the great demoness's sealed location. He estimated he couldn't outlast her. What do I want? Your Wang family's divine power is quite interesting. How about giving me half? The great demoness still smiled, somewhat mockingly. She felt a surge of pleasure. It seemed she was still quite powerful, not lagging behind, even holding a clear advantage against aristocratic families. So what kind of monster was that junior from before? Thinking of Li Heng, her mood soured again. You want divine power? What do you want it for? The young Taoist asked in surprise, hesitant. The great demoness already had a reason for this. This formation that sealed me, I suppose your Wang family played a part in it back then? It's still operating. A divine power network connected to the surrounding mountains and rivers. The young Taoist suddenly understood. So that's how it is. The female demon wanted to use his divine power to analyze the weaknesses of the formation? He sneered inwardly. She had finally fallen into demonic possession. Did she really think she could break the formation like this? The reverse 8 trigrams formation wasn't just about divine power. Alright, I agree to your request. The young Taoist readily agreed, then directly condensed a divine power crystal that appeared in his hand. It was much larger than the one Li Heng had obtained, radiating brilliant golden light. After condensing the mysterious crystal, the young Taoist's face turned pale. Clearly, it had taken a heavy toll on him. You dispel the ghost domain, I'll throw out the divine power crystal. Thus, both sides, each with their own intention to retreat, tacitly dispelled their ghost domains at the same moment and threw out the divine power crystal. The female demon obtained the divine power crystal. The young Taoist instantly fled. He also brought along a group of juniors who had been watching from afar, much to his anger and dismay. This time, he had suffered a huge loss. After condensing the divine power crystal, his combat strength had plummeted to the half-step innate level. The little Taoist looked distressed. He needed to rest and recuperate. The female demon held the divine power crystal, sighing deeply, hoping the Yin demon primordial embryo would be worthy of her investment. Now that the crucial moment was about to open, she needed to prepare early. In Bian City, within the Demon Extermination Division, Li Heng arrived at Meng Lingain's residence, but he frowned. Where had the old man gone again? The door remained closed. He was once again met with a closed door. Had that unlucky fellow Meng Hao still not recovered? Was the old man still at Bai Si Hall? He decided to leave directly and head to Bai Si Hall. If the old man wasn't at Bai Si Hall, he could go back along the way. Inside Bai Si Hall, in the spacious medical hall, Li Heng quickly spotted Meng Hao lying on the hospital bed, and Meng Lingayan standing beside him, talking to a man in a Taoist robe and Buddhist hat. Tisk, little Meng, you're still not better? You look so weak. Li Heng shook his head and walked over. He wondered which troublesome spirit had managed to drain little Meng like this. It was a miracle little Meng wasn't dead. Li Heng, it seems you're doing quite well. Meng Hao, no longer pretending, lay on the bed, gritting his teeth as he spoke. Li Heng raised an eyebrow. It seemed he had recovered well too, now even having the energy to argue with him. He ignored Meng Hao, still lying on the bed, and turned to look at Meng Lingayan. His brow lacked the imposing air of someone else, instead revealing exhaustion. Old man, it's only been a short time, and you've become so haggard. Li Heng sighed. Meng Lingayan, seeing Li Heng, was first surprised, then happy, his expression extremely complex, 1,000 words culminating in a sigh. It's good you're alright. Of course I'm alright, you have to have faith in me. Li Heng nodded. Meng Lingayan had saved his life. The two also got along very well, forming a close friendship despite their age difference. They could talk about many things and didn't engage in any overtly romantic gestures, simply exchanging greetings. And who is this? He turned to look at the old man beside him. Wearing a Taoist hat and monk's robes, unsure if he was a master or a Taoist priest. Him? Let me introduce you. You can call him a fake Taoist, a bald monk, basically nameless. In his own words, he doesn't even know his own name. Meng Lingayan regained his composure and said with a smile. What do you mean, a fake Taoist? Layman Meng, this is called a fusion of Taoism and Buddhism. If you keep saying that, believe me, I'll leave right now. The old man instantly became agitated, puffing out his beard and glaring. Chapter 71 Profound Blessings. The two old men started bickering, and Li Heng listened quietly without saying much, finally understanding what was going on. It turned out that this old man, who seemed neither monk nor Taoist, was Meng Lingayan's friend and also the doctor they had invited to treat Meng Hao, supposedly for some kind of mental illness. He couldn't help but look at Meng Hao with pity. Such a fine young man, how could he suddenly go mad? Meng Hao, feeling bewildered and somewhat annoyed by Li Heng's glance, thought, when did I, Meng Hao, need the pity of a peasant? He gritted his teeth in anger. Finally, the two old men's argument ended. They compromised. Meng Lingayan stopped calling him bald monk, and the old man agreed to treat Meng Hao. Li Heng, who had been waiting for a long time, finally spoke up. Old man, what happened in Ben City? Why is the situation so tense? Meng Lingayan frowned slightly, his expression grave. It's not convenient to go into details here, there are too many troublesome matters. If you have time later, you can go to the Hall of Merit, there's a whole bunch of tasks posted there, with information you might find helpful. But I suggest you rest a bit, after all, you just returned from the Three Mountains gathering and need to calm your mind. The old man said with some emotion. He didn't intend to ask Li Heng about the Three Mountains gathering. Anyway, matters there were beyond the capabilities of a small county-level exorcism bureau. Unless it was someone from the prefecture or a powerful family. Perhaps even he himself hadn't realized it. He gradually came to regard Li Heng as someone of equal strength, so there was even less need for him to act like a superior and ask questions condescendingly. He just needed to know that Li Heng hadn't been possessed by anything strange. Li Heng nodded, said goodbye, and prepared to leave. At this moment, the old man, neither monk nor Taoist, called out to him. Wait a moment, sir. I see you have profound blessings, and this old man would like to invest in you. He quickly pulled out a crumpled book from his robes, its cover even somewhat damaged, as if it had been salvaged from a junkyard. I predict you have already reached the bone refining realm, and will soon advance to the blood transformation realm. You can use this method to forge an unparalleled foundation. At that time, you will surely be like a dragon entering the sea, unrestrained. Li Heng stopped, frowning. He visualized his heavenly eye and looked at the old man, but his pupils contracted almost imperceptibly, showing some shock. The reason was simple, his heavenly eye could not see through the old man. The heavenly eye of the pure source wondrous Dao true monarch was of extremely high quality. Although Li Heng had only visualized it temporarily and had informally constructed a visualization diagram in his mind, he had still absorbed some of its essence. He could confidently say that unless the people of this world could achieve the level of immortality they had attained in the previous lives, it was impossible to deceive the heavenly eye. If one were to use the heavenly eye to investigate, only two possibilities would arise: one could see through it, or one could not. This old man was clearly the latter. He felt a pang of regret. As his strength increased, he encountered some powerful and mysterious individuals, and his temporary visualization of the heavenly eye was becoming less effective. It seemed that revisiting the heavenly eye needed to be prioritized. If he could find a method to cultivate his eyes, that would be even better. "Thank you, Master, but I won't accept it." Heng shook his head and waved his hand in refusal. Although this old man was a friend, not an enemy, he felt that rashly accepting the mysterious person's investment would inevitably lead to karmic consequences and troubles later. He was bound by obligation. It was better not to accept. The so-called forging of an unparalleled foundation was merely icing on the cake. With visualization abilities, as long as his source energy was sufficient, he could pierce through the ceiling of his worldview in no time. The old man said he had deep fortune, presumably sensing the 5 points of luck on him. But were these 5 points of luck enough to be considered deep fortune? He had thought his own luck was rather meager. Thinking about it, just how terrifying was that so-called ancestor of the Yi family he encountered in the cave? If it weren't for his extremely high level of Great Sun Dharma form essence, he might have already perished there. He couldn't help but reflect deeply. Meng Lingayan's expression froze, somewhat surprised. He had met this bold monk friend by chance in the deep mountains. Back then, when he was chasing the strange creature, he encountered an old man sitting under the shade of a tree, with the strange creature's corpse beside him. Shocked, he asked the old man his name and origin, but the old man knew nothing. He only said that he was cultivating in the nearby deep mountains. But he knew there were no temples there. However, during their conversation, they became friends in a muddled way, which he still found inexplicable. In the deep mountains and forests, should encountering someone lead to a fight? If he hadn't been very clear that this old man wasn't a strange creature, and hadn't conducted various checks after returning to the Demon Extermination Bureau to confirm that he hadn't been bewitched, he probably would have already drawn his sword. Later, after consulting some ancient texts and learning some clues, he became even more shocked and more certain that the old man's mysterious strength might belong to someone of that realm. He invited the old man to come out of seclusion and remove the malevolent spell that had afflicted Meng Hao. He also secretly hoped that the old man's strength could help quell the chaos in Bian City. He was just a bit eccentric and unreliable in his daily life. Now, he actually wanted to invest in this kid, Heng. Could this kid's potential be so great that even someone of that realm would invest in him? He also recalled the situation when the bold monk met Meng Hao earlier. Upon meeting him, the monk shook his head, saying something about how those with good fortune often suffer bad luck. How strange. Meng Lingayan was somewhat depressed. Did he really make the wrong choice? "Hey, layman, there's no need to rush to refuse. I only have one request. If you ever learn my name in the future, and if possible, please tell me." The old man wasn't angry. Instead, he spoke even more sincerely. Meng Hao, lying on the bed beside him, felt a dark cloud over his heart. This peasant is also a blessed person? Why? He's blessed too, and born into nobility. Why is he the one lying in bed, plagued by bad luck? You wicked monk and Taoist priest are truly despicable. This peasant has already refused. And you still have the nerve to fawn over him. Don't you see there's another blessed person right in front of you? Meng Hao was filled with the anger of being ignored. But he wasn't stupid, and he didn't show his emotions. Because he knew that, realistically, this wicked monk had no reason to invest in him. But he just wouldn't accept it. In his life, Meng Hao had never been inferior to anyone. There's no such thing as fairness in this world. Opportunities are always seized by oneself, and the strong are respected. If you don't invest in me today, I'll make sure you, this wicked monk, can't afford to associate with me in the future. He sneered inwardly, remembering the woman's words. Your name? Heng frowned. This old man was looking for his name? What exactly happened to him? He had even forgotten his own name. No wonder the old man had only said he had no name before. But perhaps the name wouldn't be a big deal? There's still that 2 characters. In other words, even if he knew the old man's name, he could choose not to tell him if it caused any trouble. Alright, I agree. His 5 points of luck didn't sense any danger. Chapter 72 Bloodline Assimilation. If there was any trouble, it probably stemmed from Xiao Meng's jealousy. Heng's heart stirred slightly. He knew Meng Hao was definitely not a magnanimous person. Seeing that he had gained an advantage, he was probably already displeased, even angry. It seemed he needed to find some time to deal with this matter properly. He pondered this. Although Meng Hao was Meng Lingayan's adopted son, if Meng Hao dared to attack him, he would still be ruthless and show no mercy. He naturally took the book from the old man's hand. The book was crumpled and in very poor condition. However, given the old man's mysterious background, he might not be simple. Outline of the blood exchange realm, 5 plain characters caught his eye. Li Heng raised an eyebrow. The name was indeed quite ordinary. Did it summarize various aspects of the blood exchange realm? The name had a textbook feel to it. However, it wasn't appropriate to read it in front of so many people. He put away the book, bowed to Meng Lingayan and the old man who was neither monk nor Taoist, and prepared to leave. Watching Li Heng leave, Meng Lingayan sighed inwardly. But he didn't know what he was thinking or saying. Finally, with mixed feelings, he could only turn to the old man and ask, "What do you think is the best way to deal with this mind-controlling technique?" He took a slightly longer route back to his own residence. In the courtyard, the breeze still rustled the willows, their verdant branches swaying on the roof as if sweeping away dust. Li Heng felt a sense of relief. He was finally home. Although it was only his home in this world. Pushing open the door, Li Heng placed his belongings in their proper places and took out the pure Yang soul-refining secret technique and the blood exchange realm outline, intending to browse them one by one. He would also use the data panel for a quick start. Although with Li Heng's talent, he could master it with some time, it would be foolish not to use a cheat code. The data panel's quick start function only accelerated his progress. In reality, it was equivalent to him cultivating and comprehending on his own. The book Blood Exchange Realm outline seemed to be privately written. The cover was badly damaged, and the material of the pages inside was extremely rough, like waste paper that could be bought for a few copper coins on the street. Li Heng pondered for a moment. Could it be that the old man, that old monk, wrote it himself? He wanted to see what such a mysterious person could write, daring to claim to have forged an unparalleled foundation. Next, Li Heng spent some time browsing through the book. Finally, he closed it, exhaled a breath of stale air, and was somewhat shocked. This was indeed a bold conjecture. The blood exchange realm lies in blood and marrow cleansing. It's about stimulating one's own potential, combined with external assistance such as powerful blood key elixirs and potent pills, to shed old blood and transform it into new blood. Essentially, it's a re-stimulation of one's own potential. Therefore, no supernatural abilities will appear. Of course, if your ancestors were innate gods or demons, that's another story. There's a saying, if your bloodline reverts to its ancestral form, you become a monkey. If someone else's bloodline reverts to its ancestral form, they become an innate demon god. People are just different. The human race in this world doesn't seem to have any powerful ancestors. Even if the blood exchange realm involves the transformation of blood and bone marrow, it only truly reaches the pinnacle of mortal existence. But this book, The Outline of Blood Exchange, had a sudden, ingenious idea. It truly was a blood exchange in the real sense. The book explained that human strength has its limits, and potential is finite. Therefore, one must borrow external forces and objects to enhance one's potential. For example, exchanging the blood of a strange beast for one's own to gain unparalleled physique. Or exchanging the bloodline of a noble family for one's own to become a member of a noble family and gain various supernatural abilities. Not only did this book contain such ideas, but the methods it recorded also seemed quite feasible. Li Heng looked at it and found it very reasonable. He couldn't help but feel a little sentimental. If the noble families knew about this method, wouldn't they hunt down the person who wrote it? No wonder the old man said it built an unparalleled foundation. Directly exchanging mortal bloodline for extraordinary bloodline could be considered an unparalleled foundation. Directly leaping to become a born noble, no longer a so-called peasant. After his sentimentality, Li Heng suddenly realized that although this method was indeed mysterious and had some feasible basis, but for him, this didn't seem to be something he really needed. He was content being a human and didn't want to become a beast. As for the bloodline of a noble family, he thought of the great terror lurking in an unfathomable realm, suspected to be an ancestor of the Yi family. Suddenly, he felt that being human was still quite good, and it was better not to go down the path of the indescribable. Wouldn't it be better to be a strong man and directly destroy everything? However, this method wasn't without its merits. Because the blood exchange recorded in this method wasn't like the modern medicine of Li Heng's previous life, which simply involved drawing and transfusing blood. Instead, it involved allowing the extraordinary bloodline to assimilate the mortal bloodline that affected him, and then performing a comprehensive blood exchange. If this step wasn't done, it would easily cause bloodline contamination, bloodline collapse, and ultimately, sudden death. Li Heng understood the essence of it as soon as he saw it. Wasn't this just eliminating the rejection reaction between different blood types? Well, it has to be said that this is still a fantasy world. The rejection reaction that modern medicine can't completely solve can be solved in a world with low productivity. Now, he looked down on the so-called blood exchange method. What he had his eye on was a minor method for bloodline assimilation, using the fluctuations of extraordinary things to infect and assimilate. The extraordinary bloodlines of strange beasts and aristocratic families all possess their own fluctuations. Therefore, these fluctuations could be used to gradually bring one's own bloodline closer to the extraordinary, achieving assimilation and infection. But it wasn't just extraordinary bloodlines that possessed these fluctuations. All extraordinary things in the world possess them. Li Heng intended to use these fluctuations to enhance his own bloodline. For example, he planned to use the fluctuations emitted by extraordinary things of extremely high essence, such as the Great Sun Dharma image, to undergo his own transformation. If he could allow his bloodline to acquire the divine will of the Great Sun, perhaps he could obtain a high-level physique like the Great Sun divine body. It was similar to what Li Heng had done when he was in the nourishing Yuan realm, the difference being that Yuan Qi was illusory, while bloodline was real. Interfering with real things with the illusory divine will of the Great Sun required a method. And this assimilation method was perfect for him. It was like a pillow delivered to someone who was already sleepy. The old man probably never imagined that the blood-changing method wouldn't help Li Heng, but rather the minor assimilation technique would be extremely beneficial. Li Heng pulled up his data panel, intending to examine it. If this outline of the blood-changing realm was indeed written by that old man, perhaps he could learn the old man's name from it, obtaining it effortlessly. Outline of the blood-changing realm. The true blood-changing method can transform one's bloodline into something extraordinary, written by a madman named. Weakness. This method has a certain chance of failure. He raised an eyebrow. Interesting. It should display the name, but it's not showing up. Chapter 73 Appraisal Upgrade. Li Heng pondered for a moment. He decided to upgrade the appraisal function. As his level of understanding increased, this appraisal function was becoming somewhat insufficient. He knew he'd have to upgrade it sooner or later, so he might as well take this opportunity to try it out. With a thought, Li Heng directly consumed 10 points of source energy, channeling it into the appraisal function to initiate the upgrade. The information appearing before Li Heng's eyes began to change, countless characters emerging densely packed within. Soon, the upgrade was complete, revealing more detailed information. Blood transformation realm outline. The true method of blood transformation can metamorphose one's bloodline into something extraordinary. It was written by a madman nicknamed Monk Taoist Guest, whose specific name is unknown. Disadvantage 1. This method has a certain chance of failure. Disadvantage 2. If one's will is weak, it can easily lead to personal corruption. Good heavens, 10 points of source energy for one upgrade only revealed a nickname. The name is still unknown? Li Heng was astonished. Just who was this madman called Monk Taoist Guest? What was his background? What had he encountered? What trouble had he gotten himself into? He thought for a moment and decided not to continue upgrading. He didn't have much source energy left, and he couldn't waste it on something as trivial as a name. The second upgraded appraisal function might not be able to identify a powerful figure like the monk or the Taoist, but it was enough for him. Further upgrades would be a waste. Good steel should be used where it's needed most. Li Heng didn't care about the renewed shortcomings of the blood exchange realm outline, since he wasn't actually undergoing a blood exchange. He wasn't surprised by the costs either. Using such a method to prematurely transform into an extraordinary bloodline was already somewhat defying the heavens. Even a few more costs wouldn't be surprising. He temporarily put aside his doubts. Li Heng browsed through the Pure Yang Soul Refining Secret Technique and the Blood Exchange Realm outline several times, and the information for these two techniques appeared directly on his data panel. Pure Yang Soul Refining Secret Technique, not yet mastered, plus Blood Exchange Realm outline, not yet mastered, plus with a thought, he clicked the plus sign. Without any suspense, he quickly mastered both secret techniques. A wealth of information about these two secret techniques flooded Li Heng's mind. It was as if he had been immersed in them for a long time, and they were incredibly familiar. Li Heng's eyes lit up immediately. Leaving aside the blood exchange realm outline, the pure Yang soul refining secret technique truly surprised him, making up for his deficiencies in his soul in achieving comprehensive development. Previously, although he could visualize the Great Sun true form to suppress his mind, that was only for defense against mental attacks and to prevent mental pollution. His own soul remained the same as an ordinary person's. Astral projection and travel across vast distances were impossible. But this secret technique made that possible. This could be considered dual cultivation of body and spirit. Visualizing the Great Sun true form, he began to temper his soul with the ultimate Yang intent of the Great Sun Dharma image and the ultimate Yang power of the solar true fire, slowly undergoing a transformation. He planned to go into seclusion for a few days to practice this secret technique. At this moment, he received a message from his divine avatar. Li Heng raised an eyebrow. What was that female demon up to now? Hadn't she finished fighting that aristocratic family member? Did she want to leave again? Sensing the message carefully, he was stunned. Good heavens, is this female demon so kind to her divine avatar? She directly extorted the divine power of that noble family member, turning it into a divine power crystal to supply her avatar's cultivation? His expression was strange. This wasn't some great demon at all, she was clearly a great philanthropist. However, the noble family member who fought the female demon also possessed divine power? Could it be that it belonged to the same source as the divine power crystal he had picked up earlier? Interesting. Li Heng's eyes flickered as he considered many possibilities. But he quickly dismissed these distracting thoughts, ordering his divine avatar to accept everything and continue immersing itself in seclusion for cultivation. Speculation was just speculation, it was better to cultivate first. At the Three Mountains gathering, near the sealing altar, the female demon, inside the seal, watched the yin demon primordial embryo continuously refining the divine power crystal, a look of satisfaction on her face. Although the yin demon primordial embryo was currently sealing her, once its demonic nature was successfully nurtured, it would become one of her own. At that time, her investment would be rewarded. A yin demon primordial embryo capable of cultivating the divine path. The female demon couldn't help but sigh. This situation was probably extremely rare even in that place. She scrutinized the yin demon primordial embryo, constantly watching for any movement. Refining the divine power crystal would inevitably cause the divine side of the yin demon primordial embryo to rise. If the divine side overwhelmed the demonic side, her scheme would be ruined. She couldn't accept a complete failure. At the same time, she wondered where the escaped junior had gone. Had he simply allowed the yin demon primordial embryo to fall into her hands? She felt things weren't that simple. Giving the divine power crystal to the yin demon primordial embryo was actually a trap. If that junior had planted a hidden weapon within the yin demon primordial embryo, it would most likely erupt with a divine power. At that time, she could use swift and decisive methods to erase all the hidden weapons within the yin demon primordial embryo, allowing it to become completely independent, no longer limited by its so-called true form. Only then would it be an unparalleled great demon, a terrifying evil god. Little one, how will you repay me in the future? The female demon looked at her divine avatar and smiled gently. She never expected to be so unlucky, sealed away for so many years. But now, as the crucial moment is about to break, and the seal is about to be broken, this auspicious beginning has brought her such a great opportunity. The young Taoist has finally returned to the Three Mountains gathering. The young noble families beside her panicked. They never expected that this person, who looked younger than them but was actually their elder, would actually be at a disadvantage in the confrontation with the strange entity and suffer such a great loss. Just how terrifying was that strange entity? They were shocked. They knew that when they left, their fathers had treated this young junior uncle with great courtesy. Some even showed a hint of respect, which showed how high their seniority was, or how high their strength was. But even so, they still suffered a great loss. The young Taoist looked exhausted. This time, it was a huge loss. The 20-year resurrection ceremony was interrupted, leaving him with no hope of advancing and likely having to start all over again. To save his life, he even humiliatingly gave up a divine power crystal, equivalent to half of his divine power origin, directly causing his combat strength to plummet to the half-step innate realm. With that, what's the point of even mentioning closing the node? He shook his head, utterly perplexed. In his original calculations, this should have been a fairly easy journey, without encountering such a formidable enemy. What caused this deviation? He pondered, then spoke. "Little Yuzi, let's go. Let's not linger here. Let's head to Bian City to recuperate. I remember our Wang family had a branch there. I just don't know if it still exists." Chapter 74 The Mysterious Realm of the Human World. Several days of seclusion passed swiftly. One day, Li Heng emerged from his seclusion, opening his eyes. A divine light seemed to flash within them, illuminating the dark room. His heart was extremely calm, and the empty room seemed to glow with light. This seclusion had been very fruitful for him. After cultivating the pure Yang soul refining secret technique for several days, he had successfully infected his soul with the supreme Yang intent of the great Sun Dharma image, slowly shedding his yin nature and transforming into Yang God. This process was a slow and meticulous one, and could not be rushed. As for the blood exchange realm outline, he was using the assimilation method to evolve his bloodline with the extraordinary fluctuations emitted by the great Sun Dharma image, slowly transforming it into transcendent being. Li Heng estimated that once he reached a critical point of assimilation, the blood exchange realm would naturally follow. At that time, although his physique wouldn't be considered a great sun divine body, it could still be called a great sun spiritual body. Just standing there, he estimated, would be able to suppress evil spirits and monsters. A single drop of his blood might even be able to suppress vengeful spirits. He also received a message from his divine avatar. The great sun visualization had reached 15%, and the vast earth visualization had reached 9%, nearing the critical point. He pondered, as expected of the yin demon primordial embryo, it's perfectly suited to this vast earth. It's only been a few days, and it's jumped from 2% to 9%? Of course, part of the reason was that the vast earth visualization was of a much lower grade than the great sun visualization, making it easier to visualize. Moreover, this speed probably wouldn't continue indefinitely, the difficulty would only increase as he progressed. Because of his visualization of the vast earth, his divine avatar had also subtly merged with the earth, even managing to bypass the ceiling array's limitations and connect its energy with the surrounding earth veins. It even had a touch of a land god's aura. Li Heng withdrew his thoughts. His divine avatar was still sealing the female demon. He hadn't fully exploited a remaining value, so it was best not to act rashly. For now, he only needed to quietly develop and visualize. With a thought, he decided to separate his soul from his body. The sun was shining brightly, it wasn't a stormy day, and there was no need to worry about a sudden thunderstorm harming his soul. His soul had already been imbued with a trace of pure yang energy, thus possessing a kind of innate, supernatural ability, the ability to briefly separate his soul from his body and move within a 4 or 5 zang radius. Pop! Li Heng's soul left his body, feeling as if it had passed through a thin membrane, and he was already suspended above it. Then came a feeling of unnatural freedom, as if he were unrestrained, able to fly and escape the earth. But he knew this was just an illusion of his soul leaving his body. If he truly believed in this so-called sense of freedom, the connection between his soul and body would gradually weaken until it was completely severed, leaving him a lonely, wandering ghost. Li Heng felt a pang of regret. The pure Yang soul refining secret technique was from a legitimate Taoist text, so it was fortunate that it contained these details. If an ordinary person relied on unorthodox methods to separate their soul from their body, they would likely be deceived. They might think they were floating like immortals, but in reality, they would only become a lonely ghost. Even invaded by the yin energy existing in heaven and earth, it was reduced to a bizarre being. Li Heng looked around from the perspective of his soul, his face solemn. Because besides the normal spiritual energy of heaven and earth, there was also a kind of hazy gray mist. This mist gave people a cold and evil feeling. It was the source of countless bizarre yin energies. At this moment, these yin energies were entangled with the yang energy of heaven and earth, neutralizing each other, and did not have a great impact on the present world. However, the balance seemed to be slowly being broken. This yin energy was too dense, wasn't it? It even felt that the concentration was constantly increasing, as if it was spreading into the present world from some unpredictable realm. He murmured to himself, deep in thought. This was the big commotion that Meng Lingayan had mentioned before. Now he had seen some of its true nature. No wonder the Demon Extermination Bureau was in such a mess, even ignoring the Three Mountains gathering. If these yin energies really overwhelmed the yang energy, it would probably directly destroy the balance of the present world, turning the human world into a bizarre realm. His pupils shrank, and he was somewhat shocked. If that were truly the case, it wouldn't just be a minor disturbance, it would be an apocalyptic catastrophe. Heng shook his head, realizing he needed to make plans early and become stronger as soon as possible. Otherwise, his meager solar true fire wouldn't be enough to burn away all the yin energy. His soul returned to his body, resuming his presence in the mortal world. He exhaled a breath of turbid air, stood up, and planned to head to the mission hall to gather information, hunt down the strange entities, and obtain source power. Only with source power could he protect himself during the great calamity. He didn't really trust the dynasty. Given the government's previous lazy attitude, he was already grateful if they didn't flee, so how could he expect anything from them? Heng had no sense of responsibility as a member of the government. Leaving the breezy, willow-lined courtyard, he weaved through the Demon Extermination Bureau. He was an efficiency enthusiast, always planning the shortest route, so he quickly arrived at the Merit Hall. The Merit Hall was bustling with people, chatting amongst themselves, and there were many more people than when Heng had come before. He was somewhat surprised. Had all the demon extermination envoys who were out on missions been recalled to defend Be'in City? Had the surrounding countryside truly become abandoned? Without much reflection, he went straight to the bulletin board and continued browsing the various notices and tasks posted there. A butcher in the South City turned into a pig overnight. His true form was only revealed the next day when his apprentice slaughtered him. In the slums of the North City, an infant cries and laughs at night. 10 people have already died. The corpses are half crying, half laughing. The corpses rise at night, crying and laughing along with the infants. Note, this task requires a partner. In the East City night market, there's a wonton stall. Anyone who eats there will die. Note, this task focuses on investigation. Proceed according to your abilities. In the West City, there are shadowy figures of ghostly soldiers. Heng read through them all and gasped. These tasks filled the entire bulletin board, a dense, overwhelming pile, demonstrating just how dire the situation was. All 4 districts were experiencing bizarre events. The residents there were suffering terribly. Fortunately, no strange occurrences had yet occurred within the inner city. Otherwise, Heng estimated that, given the government's nature, they would likely have abandoned the city and fled, then claimed the situation was hopeless. Pulling back these distracting thoughts, Heng decided to take on some major cases. With his current strength, as long as no innate level beings appeared, he could handle even half-step innate level cases, though at a cost. Therefore, he had no fear of these evil spirits or strange occurrences. Unless, of course, there truly was an innate level strange occurrence in Be'in City. But that was almost impossible. If there really was an innate level strange occurrence, the Be'in City Exorcism Division would have been wiped out long ago. The Exorcism Division here didn't have any innate level Grandmasters in charge. Wait, this is... He looked at a corner of the notice board, where there was a very inconspicuous task, but it was written in large, blood-red characters, as if warning ordinary people to stay away. South City, the self-immolation flower boat has reappeared. Investigate. Author's note on the launch of Chapter 75. Dear readers, this book will be available for purchase tomorrow at noon. I want to express my sincere gratitude for your support, which allowed me to complete this recommendation process and even advance to the top 3 literary categories. I also thank my editor for their kindness. So, I'll shamelessly ask for your continued support and subscriptions. I promise to work hard to update more frequently. I guarantee at least 5 chapters tomorrow. If the results meet my expectations, I'll add more. Please subscribe. I'm a clumsy writer, currently typing all day. Okay, enough rambling, I'm off to write. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.